your girls?
Morgan had a stomach bug, and Greta couldn't come because she was with her dad in the hospital. So other than that, it's fine.
Was it just you?
Somebody's puking.
Kelly was just holding someone's hair back.
Helen, did you glue this in here so I can't play with it? Did you glue this in? So I can't play with it all the time? Huh, how about that?
Turn anymore?
No, I
You
used to
finally screwed it
unscrew it and
tight?
screw it back in. No, it's somebody glued it. Can even see the blue marks.
But if you turn it hard enough.
Yeah, you can crack that. What time is it where Todd is? 4 in the morning?
Hey, Rankin, what time is it there?
It's 11
Oh, that's
PM?
p.m.
Are you gonna be
Yep.
near Amsterdam?
Yeah, I mean, I can get down there tonight if you need anything.
Okay.
Oh, that
You
means
can't
he's
get
in
on
Europe.
Airport Road. I mean, come on.
Space cookies.
I call to order the town council work session for June 28th, 2022. It is 3 p.m. We begin with the nonprofit campus update. Ladies.
Thank you.
Hey, can you make sure you speak into the mic because we are hybrid?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm Brianne Snow with FERC.
I'm Jennifer McAtamney with Building Hope.
Thanks for having us. So we're just here to give a quick update and answer any questions that you guys might have. We wanted to start out the presentation by saying thank you. We would not be sitting here if it wasn't for our partners, the town of Breckenridge being one of them. Rockridge and Alan Guerra Architecture have kind of gotten us a big start with the town of Breck in order to be sitting here and be planning this this endeavor between Building Hope and FERC. So we're really excited, and you guys make this possible. So thank you very much. Further, we're really trying to continue to meet the needs in our collective agencies. We have seen a huge increase since pandemic levels, which we thought was a huge increase. So I do want to point out that this is a huge project that we're embarking upon, this capital campaign. And without our partners, we literally could not do this because we have so much going on inside of our agencies that we just really, really appreciate the community support and just want to call that out right from the beginning. There we go. We created a timeline just so you could be oriented on where we are in the process and to assure everyone that we are moving forward successfully. We anticipate the process continuing to go well, and we are hoping for a fall 2022 groundbreaking. We've been working with Chris Kulik and with the staff report and our positive points. We're hopeful we'll continue to move this forward and be sitting in our offices in the fall of 2024. So this kind of lays out what we've done and where we're going. As you can see, we have some steps in front of us, but we really like that in step of project completion 2024.
Brianne and I are looking forward to having offices.
Exactly. Here's a bit of a visual of what we're doing in terms of just a big overview and a reminder of what we're working towards. So we actually hope to have all of our fundraising wrapped up in 2022, even though it's pointing at 2023. We are really hopeful that that will happen because we want to focus on the actual build, and we want to continue to focus on meeting the needs of the community, which seem to be, like I said before, increasing every day.
Yeah, the pandemic it has faded into the background. The needs around housing, food, mental health have not gone down. We would have thought maybe we're having a little space to breathe right now in the summer as everyone's getting out and about. But the truth is people are not doing well. And you guys know that from everything you're working on, whether it's childcare or housing, but it's all intertwined, and it's continues to impact our residents in a big way. So.
Yeah, as we start to shift back from kind of the public launch of this program. We're really focused on looking inward and really starting to really plan how we as agencies are going to work together to provide true wraparound support for anybody that walks through our front doors or calls us on the phone. So we're really excited for some of that strategic planning, and that's begun and will only continue to get more and more in depth with. So we're excited.
I think too, one of the things that people don't really think about is what FERC has had a pretty specific audience in the community. Behavioral health impacts everyone. And so this is really an opportunity to expose our community in a larger way to both these agencies and the services, along with the services of our partners that we offer and collaborate and push people to. So I think this really is truly a place of community for everyone.
What's the fundraising effort look like?
So you asked.
I paid him $20 to ask me. So as of today, we're almost 70% to our fundraising goal of $11.9 million. Let's just let that sink in.
Yeah.
Okay. We have had amazing community support, including our recent donation of $1 million from the Dudek family. We are really well on our way to where we need to be to make sure that we are providing those services right when we said we would, and having that building built. So the project has momentum and it's really exciting. And we just wanted to share that with you guys as you kind of started off these efforts. So I think that it's important, we talk about this a lot. The community has been waiting for something like this for as long as I have worked at FERC and before, and Jen has the same sentiment. So
Yeah. I mean, this is right. This has been a dream forever. That when I was on council, we would talk about, right, the opportunity to bring nonprofits together to be able to have those kind of efficiencies. We think there's at least $100,000 that we can eliminate in terms of expenses across our two organizations that just goes back into the community. So that's just the beginning of those efforts. And I think too, it is truly let it sink in. I mean, the gift and donation of the land and the incredible efforts by you guys and the legal team here to get the ground lease and these like technical things of building a building and doing this partnership together has gotten us this far. But it was just that act that has brought us to the point where we are almost 70% of our fundraising goal of $11.9 million. And let me tell you, we did not think that building was going to cost $11.9 million when we started. Never do. But even when it came up to 9, we were like, okay. But the reality is, I mean, people have been waiting for stuff to like this happen. And as a result, we are just seeing generosity coming out of the woodworks in a way that both Brianna and I are absolutely stunned at.
yeah. So we have 3.7 million to go. And like I said, we just kind of publicly rolled this out. And so we have all of the faith in this community and our other partners outside of this community to make this happen. So just want to assure you that we're getting there. We're really getting there.
We've got a plan. So, and we're going to go get the money.
A new name. This is the first name.
Is a new name. So we really thought that the building needed a name, right? It's a special place where people were going to go. We didn't really think it should be, I mean, honestly, named after a person or a thing. It was not the Bergeron Center. No, some people would have been scared to come for some mental health help if we had named it after Jeffrey. So we sat down as, in our little community work group and really started thinking about what is this meant to be? What are the emotions it evokes? What does it look like? How are people going to feel about this? And when we came to Soul, right, it's a great one. It's sun, and that valley is full of sun. And when people get the healing and the help they need, right, their life is full of light, but it's also the play on words of soul, like the soul of our community. And who do we serve? We serve our workforce. And who is the heart and soul of our community but our workforce? And so really felt that really struck a chord. And it is truly called Soul Center at Alta Verde, because we also think that connection to the housing and the workforce, in particular, the folks that project is serving, is exactly the target for whose lives will be made better by us being together.
Cool.
And that small work group that she referred to was like 25 people trying to come up with the name. So lots of input. It was
Lots of opinions too.
lots of opinions, and this definitely rose to the top. So we're pretty proud that it came to a conclusion and have a pretty cool name.
Who came up with it?
Oh, I'm not allowed to tell you. I'm just kidding. Who did?
I don't remember.
It just, there were so many voices. It was more of a, oh, I like that. And everybody kind of jumped on, but there was many that there wasn't so much jumping. So this is the breakdown of where we're getting the money from. The point in this slide is to show you that we have community support, but we also are being really diverse in how we approach this. And we're reaching out to all kinds of different individuals and entities, from a state level to, your neighbor. And so we have all kinds of opportunities for us to get to where we are going. And special thanks to Summit County for forgiving one of our mortgage loans. We have our boards together gave $500,000 to the project.
Wow.
Summit Foundation, $50,000. So we just have, for just starting off this project, we just have so many people that want to be a part of it from the beginning. And so it's just been really exciting. So just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that this was coming from all kinds of different places, and there's so much support behind this thing. And so we're just really excited.
People are calling us and wanting to meet with us, which is not usually what happens in a fundraising campaign.
Pick up our calls, but now they want to learn more. So it's exciting.
Great.
So that is just an overview of what we've been up to since the last time we sat here. We've been really busy. I know you guys have been too, but we just wanted to say thank you and have an opportunity to answer any questions you guys might have.
Awesome. Questions?
No, it's just a great way to start a meeting.
It really
Cleanse
is,
my
yeah.
palate.
Be a good way to end the meeting too. If we just walk out of here after this. That's good news.
And
Todd,
it's
any
incredible
questions?
to see how much progress you've made, fundraising, the name, the logo, it all feels so much more tangible and closer now. So great work.
And an absolutely beautiful building, right? And that beautiful building is going to consolidate the thrift store and the food market, along with building hope services and the other FERC services. And, that's so amazing because right now when a client comes or needs one of those things, right, they have to go to the food pantry, which is over here, and they have to go to the thrift store, which is over here. And you can connect with us on the phone to get your Building Hope scholarship. But like having everything under one roof, there's great opportunities for us as staff to be able to participate, make sure that we're doing as good of a job as we possibly can around our clients. But even more importantly, that people will, when they get there, whether it's on their way from work or an appointment that they have, they'll be able to take care of everything in one fell swoop. And that's a big deal because, one of the things that we see is that we do have people that still have struggled to access services. And a lot of those barriers are things around transportation, time, lack of childcare. And so by making it more efficient, we really do serve people in a better and more significant way.
What's the relationship on the building?
Oh, you mean we're a tenant?
You're a tenant.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So we have a lease.
I didn't know if you're going to be scrubbing floors for them.
Yes, she is.
If I don't raise enough money, I'm gonna be scrubbing floors.
Okay.
Coming into this as true partners, and really Jen has been a huge part. They have a much smaller portion of the building that they're using, and yet she's been here 100% of the time. And so I won't have any floor scrubbing activities for her. And we really feel like we're going into this together. But how it's structured is we entered into a lease with you, and they will enter into a long-term lease with
Thank
us
you.
as well.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you. Other questions?
Todd?
No. Okay.
That's
Thank you both
Yeah.
for
Well, good
what you're
work,
doing.
Yeah.
Great job.
Inspires you all. So
I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to come and listen to anything, we have a little event on Thursday night over here at the Nordic Center, 4 to 6. So come on by.
Fundraiser.
It's more of actually just a kind of a presentation and be able to really, we have some fun things to show. And so
Cool.
if any of you can stop.
They'll never
by, feel
admit it's a
free.
fundraiser.
Ask it for money though, right?
We're not going to send a basket around, I promise. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And have a pinata and you can break the pinata and see how much you're supposed to donate.
Oh, I like that.
This is for someone else.
We got planning commission decisions. Oh, where am I? I don't even know. Key. Afternoon. Band shape and both. Is there something going on I don't know about here?
I just have a
Question?
question. Yeah. Is the Coon subdivision, is that just what we already discussed?
Yes.
Thanks for that question, Kelly. Yeah, so that's, you approved the development agreement 9 months ago, whatever it was, that allowed him to split the line. That just creates that lot split.
Okay, great.
That's all it
Thank you very
does.
much.
The questions about,
Yes, there was a lot of discussion around 24, policy 24. Is there language in the code we need to revisit to make it more clear, as there seemed to be a lot of,
Regarding the change of use proposal. Yeah. So the language in the code right now, here's part of the issue is that the uses that are listed, they're broad categories. So you have like restaurants. That's all there is. There isn't any breakdown further. I think most people recognize it. Maybe there's less employees for a straight tap room than, but we don't have that right now. So the code right now has language that allows someone to challenge that. It's specific right here. It says, if you feel that if you can provide evidence to the planning commission that your use would not generate that number of employees, then that's something that the planning commission can consider. And so that's obviously what happened in this case. So one of the issues too is, we could do our own nexus study to further flush that out. And that's something we need to be looking at, honestly.
Yeah, and I caution all of us of trying to drill down too far, because restaurant category is the perfect one. You change your menu and you can change your staffing
Right.
overnight. Restaurants come in so much, you can change your strategy. Somebody might say, I don't want so much labor, so I'm going to buy food that's already pre-prepared and bring it in. And then I have less labor, so I think a broad category is the right thing in that sector. Now, is a tap house exclusive enough to warrant a separate category? I don't know, because then you're going to have a bar and they're going to want a separate category, and you're going to start talking about, well, what's percentage of food? And I just expressed caution. I was on the housing committee when 24A was written, and I think it was intended to be somewhat broad and somewhat of a middle of the road number, because it's impossible to have a specific number to a specific business, because that business could change in a week. That could significantly change staffing. So,
we talked about it a lot. I gotta say, some of the comments act like we just took Vale's plan and didn't really discuss it, but that is not true. Like Dick said, we discussed this at length about using those numbers, and we thought that was legitimate. Now, I don't mind. The code allows for them to come and press
to get
their
a third
point.
party consultant and have them.
The thing
come
is,
assess.
we need to make sure that that's in a restricted covenant, that it's recorded, because what we don't want to do, how things go, that will, go from a tap house, Axe will sell it, it will become something else. That next owner needs to know that they'll be on the hook then for the additional employee generation figure. And just like you would with a tap, just like when you go from retail to restaurant and you're on the hook for the water tap or the parking rate, that just needs to become some of that language at the front desk at community development.
Yeah, we need to remember I forget which one it was where we had the paper, instead of China, it was around water piffs, and there were the two categories, but then they got blurred. The company, businesses started as a paper service, And then over the years, as they got more successful and changed their concept ever so slightly, all of a sudden they're using China, and this will be the exact same thing. So I'm very cautious, I'll just say.
We're gonna, this was just a work session with a plan. That's how the way it works. It's just planning commission weighs in on it. We have to actually take an action, do a permit for this. I'm gonna classify it as a class C, which goes to the planning commission. Then they'll be able to see the conditions we write up regarding monitoring this in the future, making sure that that use doesn't morph. And then ultimately that would be even available to the council if you guys wanted to, call it up and discuss it. So that's kind of where we're planning to go with this.
Questions on that one?
Do we want to do a nexus study? I mean, keep 24A in place, but then commission our own nexus study now. And when the results come, we can tweak 24A, but I suspect it's not going to be tremendously different.
Well, I don't know that we.
Is
want
that necessary? I don't know if it is.
We
Okay.
spent a lot of time looking at those numbers. We
Yeah.
looked at those numbers in light of other businesses in town, in light of our own businesses, and
In light of other ski towns, I mean, we looked at an enormous amount of.
Yeah, the code does refer to the town's nexus study. And so from that perspective, it may be helpful to actually have our specific one rather than just relying on Vails.
So I think we maybe need to have a little bit more of internal conversation because we are worried a little bit about doing a nexus study right now. When we know staffing numbers are lower than they normally would be, we know we're not really through COVID yet. So to do that now might present some maybe lower than expected numbers. So
was there any information from our STR Nexus study that would be,
I'd have to go back and look at it.
Okay.
We can check it though.
because they did
see if-
employee generation from that side, so I don't know if there's any, cross-referencing we could do through that one.
And Shannon, when we discuss it a little further, it's probably time we discuss the 35% as well.
That's what I was
Because I question whether that's high enough in light of our employee situation right now. Maybe that number needs to go up as well.
Careful what you ask for. All right, any other questions on that?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Call-ups for the evening? I'm assuming none since it wasn't anything. We have legislative review, Excel easement for EV supply infrastructure at the police department and the golf course for second reading.
Mayor and council, this bill authorizes the town manager to enter into service agreements with Excel, as well as provide the necessary easements to install and maintain the EVSI equipment at our two project locations at the Breckenridge Police Department and the golf course. There are no changes to this bill from first reading, but I'm available for questions.
Excellent. Questions?
While you're here, congratulations on the usage going up so much. It's in the parking stuff later,
Yep.
but that's cool data. I mean, it shows that this stuff's really getting used.
Yeah.
I'm plugging in my e-bike.
Criminal.
Oh, that's good.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. We have fines and penalties for utility relocation ordinance also for second reading. Hello, Shannon.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is second reading of the ordinance, and we haven't made no changes from first reading.
Questions?
Oh,
No? All right,
must be
thanks. And
housekeeping.
now we have acceptance of a second water treatment plan for by resolution. James.
Hello, everyone. Mayor and Town Council, yeah, the resolution that's before you this evening is as in the subject line of the memo I put together for the acceptance of the second water treatment plant. This is a process piece for the SRF loans that we took out, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for James? Thank you.
Great. I did
Like a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I did want to mention, it's kind of, for those that remember, it was only in 2017 when this project started, and a lot of discussion about Alta Verde and McCain. And for those that you can remember, the only thing that was out there in 17 was Beartown. And
Yeah. Bear Town.
It's
My God, that's
changed quite a
right.
bit. Thank you.
Being the capacity, I had forgotten that, and to do that
was
without
awesome.
any additional cost, that's pretty phenomenal.
It's extra interesting too, because had we gone back and added that extra 1.5 train now, the cost on that would have been,
Oh, my God.
yeah, so to get everything in under the 58 is,
Yeah.
is
Nice work.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the pace, Eric. It's good.
Projects update.
We can make up for the last couple.
I mean, the last couple, well, we got a lot of stuff to slow us down coming up, so just relax. Hi again, Shannon.
Oh.
Public projects.
Public projects. I don't have anything to add to the memo. The alley project was installed yesterday and was finishing up today with some crosswalk thermo, and so far everything is going better than expected there.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I was really excited. I had all three of my kids on my e-bike and I took the bike lane and it dumped me right onto the river walk.
Mhm.
It's a huge bummer because I can't really walk that thing without. So why does the bike lane go into the river walk when you can't use your bike in the river walk? I guess that's my question.
Where would you like
You
it
only
to
walk it a
end?
little ways.
Okay. I thought the bike lane was gonna stay on the other side of the river and be able to just go right out there.
It doesn't even start on the other side of the river is the thing.
That's a hard route.
So
You'd
we're
have to
just
add-
always gonna have it on the other side. Cause I was under the impression that we were sort of separating the walkers and the bikers.
Mhm.
And that the bikers would be on the west side of the river and the walkers would be on the east side of the river. And so I was a little surprised that the
So,
bikers were put right
yeah,
into the river.
we haven't planned past the Ice House Alley. So there was talk about finding that next piece between where you got dropped and South Park. But that necessitates a lot more planning, probably another bridge.
The problem with
Looking
the
at
west
those-
side too is you go right through Castaways
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That is very
restaurant.
true.
So
So that's where the alignment goes for now on the west side of the project, the east side of the river. And it does terminate there at the dismount zone. But to
Mhm.
get to that next piece, if you were trying to go all the way up to South Park, that's a whole nother huge planning
people don't
project.
dismount, so just right there.
Well, I did.
Give it, Bill.
I think it's more of a
Right on
suggestion
through.
than an order.
No. I was really surprised because I thought like, oh, we can take this all the way to the south end of Main Street and then it dumped me right into.
Because we don't really have a plan how we get past the Riverwalk Center
Okay.
yet.
Okay. That's a perfectly fine response.
Yeah, I see how that'll take planning, because if you go to the west of the Riverwalk Center, then where's the connect, yeah. That's the next chapter.
Well, if it wasn't for Castaways, it actually would work on bikes on that
Pretty
other side.
narrow. But we'll get to that later.
How do you get up that hill?
I got a e-bike, man.
No, I mean.
You get 3 children on it.
Oh, that's,
You need
can
an
I
e-bike.
say something about the, can we get a speed limit sign on the rec path instead of, it says, so there are several signs that say like only type 2 e-bikes, which I don't think anyone has any idea what that means. Right? Oh.
It means
Pedal
Type
assist
1,
only.
I'm
Pedal
sorry,
once in a
type 1.
while.
That's what
Yeah,
Scott read.
type 1, type 1.
We'll look into the guidance.
So it'd
on
be
that.
nice if, because I'm
Does
happy
yours
to
have
go
a
slow, but I got a
speedometer?
throttle.
You got a speedometer?
I do.
Yeah, they all have
No way.
speedometers, yeah.
Oh, really?
They all do, yeah.
A motorcycle.
Jen, can you, just because I'm new, can you explain the Excel 1% funds and how that, the 1% underground tariff and how that works into our budget? I'm not familiar with it.
Sure. So I don't know how it started, but currently Excel collects 1% tariff and holds it in account for us to do undergrounding projects
From all customers?
from all customers in the
Commercial,
town of
residential.
Breckenridge, I do believe.
Cool. And then what is the timing on the 4 o'clock paving? 4 o'clock road paving?
For paving. I don't know the dates. They had their meeting today at noon, so I can get that updated and we'll have it on Breck Roads.
Try to like maneuver it around, like, it's kind of, I imagine it's kind of tough right from here on out for a while. Cool. My last question.
Hey, early.
On the fiber 9600 with the current provider, with
Aloe.
Allo,
Hello.
what does the adoption rate look like? How are we, like, how is it going? Is it above expectations, below expectations? Are they hitting the metrics that we want them to hit?
I think it's below expectations. Um, Certainly COVID didn't help. And I think the marketing fell short of what we had hoped it would be. So Kristen Brownson has been doing an excellent job working with Allo and getting a plan together for what this looks like and getting on their marketing side. Brooke is working on marketing the network, which is our responsibility, and working with their marketing folks. And we're going to be making some changes to how we do multi-dwelling units, which has been a bit of a contentious spot between the town and Allo. So I think we have the opportunity to make some real progress. So I would say more to come on that. We expect to see improvement.
And what is that relationship? Is there such a substantial investment on our part that if they don't deliver, is there a clawback or is there performance contingencies? Are there other providers? Are there other options if they don't perform moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we have an agreement and it has things that they need to meet and things that we need to meet. And we're having conversations to make sure we are both meeting the expectations that are set out in the agreement. And I think if that doesn't happen, then we'll have some more conversations with them on what that looks like.
Thank you.
I will say it's awesome. Joe, you on Allo?
No, they won't call me back.
Oh, really?
I'll
I'll get him to call you.
Better get on that.
Yeah. No, I mean, the service is amazing. You know, if you go out, you just call them and they do it online or it's been great and really fast.
You can do the marketing.
I could do it. Brooke and I will work on it. Yeah.
It's just what she wants.
Other questions? Other questions for Shannon? Thanks, Shannon. Mobility, I know Matt is at home.
So I don't think we have anything on the traffic numbers you had in the packet. For childcare though, Austin wanted to give you a little
Thanks,
bit of an
Shannon.
update.
Okay. Hey, Corey.
Walking down here. Same leg, tough day today.
Housing and childcare.
That's a rough patch.
The tuition assistance application closes on Friday at midnight. Right now we have 46 total in-process applications. That's compared to 49 just before the deadline in July last year, and then 65 in 2020. So fairly flat. We actually just looked at the number on the way down here and it grew by 10 people basically this morning. So the word is out there. The centers are increasing tuition in September. So the centers are pushing it really hard to make sure all families apply.
So that's where people find out about it, at the centers themselves.
Yeah, you have to be enrolled in a center. So it's not exactly fair for us to be pushing it as the
Right.
town. We push it through the center.
Good.
Yep. In addition, any questions around the application? We applied for a circle grant through the state of Colorado. March, April? Let's go with April. And we just heard last week that the town was awarded $100,000 for a childcare tuition assistance program.
Nice.
And we applied basically on the parameters that we presented to you, the sliding scale. So we now have $100,000 to do that for families. So,
Excellent.
great. Absolutely.
Well done.
So does this mean, does the summit pre-K, like the 3-year-olds, does that happen in September or is that a year off?
No, that's in September as well.
So would that mean that like within the people who have applied for tuition assistance through the town, then that's just for people who are younger than 3? And so we actually probably do have more applicants. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of that right, because all the people who have 3-year-olds are presumably now applying at the county.
Mhm.
So maybe we're serving more people. I'm just wondering, are we? serving
Because we
more-
expanded the
That's what I'm
number.
thinking.
Yeah. So
feels
it's
like we
interesting
might-
that we're almost completely flat between
Exactly.
46 and
Yeah.
49 at the
We've lost
same.
all the 3-year-olds.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
We're actually anticipating it to drop, so we were surprised. We just checked in the back.
It had dropped up until this morning. So now it grew back up to
Well,
that
that's cool.
number. So
Yeah.
People are being served. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a good.
And we can report when we kind of get it finalized. June, like I said, Friday at midnight is the deadline.
Great.
Is the applicant pool any more reflective of our community in terms of makeup?
We don't know that, right? Would we?
Kind
Hey,
of.
I guess you don't know. that.
No, like we wouldn't process it. We can definitely report back once we get through. Right now, it's just all the applications are coming in. So we can report kind of what that data set looks like when we get through it.
Yeah. I'd be interested in that. I'd like to keep working on that,
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
to try to reach all members of our community.
Mhm.
Well, interestingly, that's exactly what Tamara talks about a lot, is that because you're talking about the only way people are finding out about tuition assistance is they're already enrolled in a school. But most people who look at how expensive the school is are just like, if it's too much for them, they're just like, oh, we can't
Yeah.
even try. So it's a little bit of a.
And
different
I should share that Early Childhood Options takes the brunt of that, and the centers do a really great job of, if people reach out and they're like, wow, I can't afford that,
Right.
they go through the magnitude of options. So
Right.
Early Childhood talks through all the programs, not only Breckenridge tuition assistance, but CCAP and all the programs. So we do do our best.
So the only people who would necessarily be missed by getting that information is someone who looked on the website and that's it. They just didn't even
Yeah.
go further than that. And that's not most families. So that makes.
And
that's
if they
great.
get a call from the childcare center that they're getting enrolled and they go through, they are then re-educated at that point
Sure.
as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do we have availability for Spanish speakers to work through this process?
We do. So the
Process.
application is available in Spanish virtually, and then we have a paper application. And then I've personally walked through people through the application on a one-on-one basis as well.
Childhood development, I mean, do they have, I'm assuming they do.
they do. They have on-staff Spanish speakers. So if we ever are really stuck on our side, that's kind of our first method, is to go through early childhood options to help get the application finalized. And we've done a couple of those every year.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to encourage them to see if they can reach out further to just to try to reach the whole community.
Anything else?
Austin, we're sad to lose you.
I was curious if we were going to talk. Yeah.
Everywhere I go, you leave, whether it's the VTO or here. I'm starting to take it personally.
I mean, you probably should. So I will be with the town on a part-time status through September to process all tuition assistance applications, get them in order for all the centers, any housing needs. But I will step away from the town starting September 1st. Basically got an offer I couldn't refuse. So
Oh.
yeah, I'll still be here and I'll still be pining for committees and yeah, Jay, obviously. But yeah,
Austin, thank you.
for the service. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
That's just
Corey,
more
thank you
work for
as
you.
usual.
For staying.
Dan, thanks for picking up all the slack. I know you will.
Good luck getting up that hill.
Committee reports. Any questions? There was nothing.
Nothing.
Just checking to see if you're reading, Jeffrey.
No, I do. Carol walked it through me with me.
Dave,
Am I doing committee?
No, you're doing financials.
doing finance.
Well, I'll do that. And committee, I guess.
Sir,
No updates on committee.
how are you?
Good. Mayor and
Settling in?
council. Trying to, but yes, they're doing well. Just a quick update on the financials for the month. We are tracking well ahead of our budget on a year-to-date perspective. We're about almost 10 million over our budgeted revenues year-to-date. And a lot of that is being driven by our excise fund, our tax revenues coming in. Just compared to where we are now to the annual budget, we're about 56%. So we'll be updating our full year as we do the budget for 23. So we'll get a full year view, but at the rate we're going, we should be exceeding our 22 budget, I would say, for our tax revenues. And then looking at the change from 2021 and from a comparison perspective, we are running about 96 million ahead of 2021 from a year-to-date perspective in taxes. Most of those are being driven by restaurant, short-term lodging, and we are running about 118 million ahead of 2019. So that's not in the packet, but that's about a 41% growth from 2019 to 2022. And from 2022 to 21, we're about 31% growth year over year. So tracking very strongly from that perspective. Just general high-level updates, going through the different categories. I kind of look at I'm going to probably be changing this book a little bit as we go forward. But from a year-to-date perspective, if I look at this total taxable sales, we're about 31% higher than a year ago, year-to-date, and another 41% to 19 year-to-date. So tracking, I would say, very strong from a year-over-year perspective for the first 4 months of 2022. And then continuing down, retail's growing 15% over 2022 year-to-date, and then 40% higher than 2019 from that perspective. And then the two other bigger categories, restaurant and bar, just from a year-to-date perspective, we're about 50% ahead of last year on taxable sales and 30% ahead of 2019 from a year-to-date perspective. And on short-term lodging, we're about 37% ahead of last year, year over year, year-to-date, and about 68% from 2019. So really strong performance, I would say, from the town's perspective on those categories.
68% for
Yep.
short-term rental. How hard would it be for you to get the ADRs, the average daily rates from Lucy, and include that for perspective in these reports? Just
Gonna-
as a footnote or something.
I will try.
Okay, because Lucy gets those, and yeah, I think it'd just be nice to have them on the same page so you can see all the same periods of time. I'd love to know how much the ADR has gone up since 2019 in relation to the sales, to the dollars being up 68%.
And then on the one thing I thought was interesting, the disposable bags are down for the first time in the month of May compared to 2021. I think that's should be good.
Because we got rid of them.
Well, but they're continuing to, they've been running higher in 22 versus 21 for the first 4 months of the year, but now they're down in the month of May.
Because people are shopping in Frisco.
Any place but here.
The city market.
And then are looking at retail in town and out of town continuing to be strong. One thing to note, out of town year-to-date sales are 53% higher in 2019 versus 2022 versus 19, and running about 20% higher year-to-date compared to 21, which I think is kind of an interesting view of the world today. And then the last one is really Rhett. It's dropping a little bit. I don't see a risk in our budget because our budget was much lower than the 2021 actuals for the transfer tax. So I don't see any problems there, but we have been dropping a little bit, but I think we'll be fine from a year perspective. And that's basically the book. As got feedback last month, I will be massaging things as we go down the road. And any questions?
Awesome. I had a couple. How's our expenses tracking versus revenue on a year-to-date basis?
So one of the things that we're looking at, we did an updated, I'll call income statement through May. We have been updating, closing the books through 2021 in preparation for our annual audit, and that's now been done. And now we've been tackling May. And so I reviewed it this past week with Rick and Shannon. One of the things that I'm not comfortable with is on the timing of putting in our budget, if you will, which was kind of done through our consultant. So I'm going to look more at a full year perspective when we update 2022 for the budget for 2023, I'll have a better view then. Because some of the anomalies aren't really, I would say, I don't think there's any risk, but it's how we loaded the budget in 2022 by month.
Okay.
So some of the normal spend like compensation and things like that are running fine. It's looking at some of the timing of the projects and the phasing. So I think it'd be better to look at a full year view as we go through the budget over the next couple of months. That would be my recommendation.
My other question, and this may be a little bit too deep in the weeds at the moment, but with the real estate transfer tax, if a property was held in an LLC and the LLC was purchased, does the buyer of that LLC pay the transfer tax?
I'll have to follow. I'll have to follow. I don't know if you know, Shannon.
I believe so, but I'd have to look at
Yeah.
the code to make sure.
Okay, I'm just curious how that works. If it's not, if
It
it's
sounds like it should,
right.
but I'll double check.
There are some exemptions.
Yeah, that is, that's not an exemption, but we have had some discussions about kind of the enforcement of that because, the sale can be in various varieties of the business agreement. So we might want to talk offline a little bit more about case specific.
Understood. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else?
Dave, thank you.
All right, man. Thank you.
Get it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
STR overlay district discussion.
Eric, if we could just get a couple minutes to set up.
Yeah. You guys want to take? Anybody need a break? I know we haven't been at it that long, but.
I don't want to have to
Right.
run out in the middle of here.
I may as well, 'cause if not.
Yeah. What is it you had to say? And we should really compare to 22, we should compare to 20.
Or to 20.
between the two
Two
companies.
20.
Yes.
For next month.
We always say that 2019 is the last
Between the
full
two
year.
companies, so we'll see how
Because
that
in
all
March,
shakes out.
middle of March, things went to shit.
So it's not a sustainable.
All right.
Same two owners.
STR overlay district discussion.
One that's older, I have less owners. Newer was I more.
Thank you, Eric.
Team.
It is. It's a great team. So at the last meeting, we talked mainly about resort properties and the definition. You guys had some suggestions on some tweakings to that. So that's in your memo, and Sarah will be taking you through that a little later in the discussion. But what we'd like to do now is start talking about those zones that we've all been kind of waiting to see how they shake out. Based on council direction and discussions before, there was really a thought that we needed to go back to our land use guidelines, which is essentially the town zoning for different areas. And we've got some 50 different land use districts in the town. But to specifically call out and identify zone 1, which is that area which there be some level of additional short-term rental licensing, really focusing that on the area that is traditionally served as a bed base for the ski area. So we've provided a couple options here, and we've called them options A and B just to not confuse them with 1 and 2 in that. But anyway, I'm just going to take you through them, and we'll scroll through on the map as we're going so that we can talk about them a little bit. But both of these options rely on the descriptors in the land use guidelines or in our land use districts. So for example, land use district 21, I'm going to read exactly what it says because that's one of the ones that's within, I think, both of the zones. In zone 1 in either option. But what it says is District 21 lies west of Park Avenue and north of Peak 9 Base, is intended for multifamily residential development. The current pattern of high density development is expected to continue to provide a bed base within walking distance to the town and lifts. So language like that is included in several of these land use districts, but most of them not. But so in option A here, that's outlined on the first page of our report, it refers to those land use districts that include the phrases bed base, base of the ski area, within walking distance to lifts, close proximity to ski facilities, support ski base facilities, development adjacent to ski runs. So that's what we relied on for identifying these areas that are proposed in zone 1 for option A. So given that, land use districts 21, 22, 23, 24, 39, and 40 would qualify. And if Brad, if you pull those up, you'll just be able
We
to.
don't have our numbers on this one, do we?
No, just on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this map kind of shows where where those districts are in relation to this. Is this option A or B?
That's option B, actually, isn't it?
Well, I'm wondering why 28 is showing up highlighted. That's only.
Sorry, the highlighted areas are just the ones that mention the bed base. The outlined in orange are. Makes sense.
Okay,
Sorry,
okay,
I
so.
don't have the numbers.
Yeah, okay, so outlined in orange are option A. Thank you. All right.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why 28 doesn't talk about bed base, but it was identified previously. Okay, so under this scenario, land use district 20 does not qualify, and you can see it's where it is, but then if Brad takes off the land use districts, you'll see that it's not part of this. And so that does include areas like the BGV, North Gondola lots, as well as River Mountain Lodge. However, this option also kind of assumes that you're going to go forward with some type of resorts property definition and have a separate category for those. So that's how those properties could potentially qualify if you go with this route. Looking at this option. Main Street Station isn't in kind of the same situation. It's in Land Use District 19, so it's not included here. Can you just highlight where that is, Brad, on the map? Yeah, right in there. Thank you.
Moving. Oh, I do. Okay.
Yeah. But once again, if you come up with a separate resorts property definition, then it's kind of a moot point whether it's within this or not, as you still treat it differently. And finally, there is an area, the South Gold Rush lot, that if you can highlight that, Brad. Is south would be down, that's north, so it's right below that, right where the gondola is going through. Up to the left there.
To the left.
Across Park Avenue. Yeah, right there. That's in Land Use District 9.2. So that wouldn't be part of it either if we use this criteria right here. Interestingly, the resort properties definition right now talks about you can't access amenities and that type of thing that qualifies you for resort properties if you have to cross a right of way, public right of way. So the way our resort definitions works right now, that might not qualify, that part of that area, Gold Rush lot. So that outlines option A. Let's take a look quickly at option B. And what we did in option B is this is a little more inclusive. And this is kind of written if you decided, I mean, you could go with this and a resorts property definition, but if you didn't do a resorts property definition, this may come into play because it is a little more inclusive in terms of, we once again have that criteria of bed base, close to ski lifts and that, but you could also qualify if you had residential uses of 15 units per acre or greater. The areas that are highlighted here, I mean, they either have one of those two or that it says lodging in the descriptor. So using that criteria, then we further defined it a little bit geographically, saying west of Main Street and south of that North French Street, kind of the part of French Street that goes east-west. If you use that descriptor, then all these areas that you see here qualify. And so Land Use District 20, the one that I showed you was out of the option A, is in option B. The other land use districts all qualify as well. In addition, portions of 11 and 19 would qualify under option B. In particular, the areas that are west of Main Street. So the west side of Main Street, and then 11 is the very north end of Main Street. So the west side of Main Street there. And then finally to the south, the Main Street station once again would qualify under that criteria. If you didn't have that geographic descriptor to define these and limit their use, you would also have some other lugs that would come into play. Land Use District 6, which is the one up by the Ranahan Welk Resorts, would come into play, as well as 18.2 right there off Ridge Street, and 28, the one that's to the around the ice arena and across the street from the ice arena on the southeast side of town would also qualify. We did want to note that within this area that's defined here, all the resort properties that we've been talking about would fall in here too. Just so you know that they all fall geographically within the areas that are described in this zone.
So B is more inclusive, a little bit more
Correct.
flexible and.
Yeah, the numbers don't end up being a ton different, but it is a little more inclusive. You're right, Jeffrey, then.
And with B, we could still do kind of factor in kind of resort type exclusion or.
If you wished, yeah, sure.
So I think we calculated that it's about 75 more units. Is that right?
All right.
Yeah.
Sarah will be able to tell us exactly, but
And none of these options would preclude us from working towards like number wise, our cap, the cap that's already been voted on and established, right?
right. Yeah, I mean, there still needs to be a reduction, overall to reach that number, right? But right, we could certainly still stick with that cap number if we wish.
Other questions? Jay?
When you look at option A versus option B, from a legal soundness standpoint, does going with a strict LUD definition versus that or a units per acre put us in a better position or put you in a better position when defending this?
So if we want to talk like litigation, I recommend we do like a follow-up executive session. I think no matter what, we're in a defensible position. And so beyond that, I don't know that there's reason to kind of pick or choose right now the levels of defensibleness, but I do think cleaner and more straightforward is easier to implement, certainly.
Another question, Jay?
The other question I had, and it doesn't relate exactly, but more to looking at option A, there's 610 units that are not licensed currently or have an SDR license. Of that 610 units, do we have, trying to understand if that was to get opened up, such as Steamboat, where we didn't put a cap on that zone in option A, and those 610 were at risk of turning to be fully short-term as well. I'm trying to get at whether those units are possible workforce housing. So do we know what the average HOA fee of those 610 units are that are in zone A that currently don't have an STR license? Are they do they exceed $500 a month? Are there some that don't? Are they possible workforce housing units that we would lose?
Jay, I would say that we don't know what the average HOA fees are. I think it's safe to say they're higher than in a lot of other areas that are more local based. There's not we don't think there's a ton of workforce units in this option and in either option, frankly, because some of the areas that have been excluded are like Gold Camp and Grandview. And those were the areas in those lower density areas in between, top of Ski Hill and downtown where we do have some workforce housing. So I don't think the numbers are real high there.
And if we were not to do a carve out for resort properties, are there any levers to pull that would allow a property that laid outside this district to be included in, such as is there a post-development agreement that if a resort property laid outside this perimeter or these areas, that they would be, that there's some agreement that could allow them into being grandfathered or sorts?
I think we'd have to write that in. That would be something we'd have to decide how we could do. I mean, that's not really contemplated. But
Jay, probably more likely would be a new resort inside of the zone that wanted to do a development agreement for licenses that didn't currently exist. Rather than a development outside of this zone that wanted to be part of the zone. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I'm just saying that more of to take a narrower stance on this overlay And instead of trying to use an X-Acto knife to get around every property that we want in there, if it makes more sense to go with the land use districts as written, and the fact that one of these properties lays outside that zone of
Oh, I
doing
see
a
what you're saying, yeah.
grandfather clause.
So the problem is though, you can't do a development agreement with a property that's already in existence. So you'd have to do it at this level. There's no other mechanism to, say Main Street Station. Or something like, I don't know if we can actually talk names, but you could, there's no planning mechanism to say to them, we want to do a development agreement with you in order to bring you in. That doesn't actually exist. So this is really the level that we would have to do that at. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless we could come up with some other ideas on how that, could apply to these properties. But I guess that's why we were having this resort property discussion, to see if that's a way to address some of these issues without the zone getting too large.
I just feel like when when I draft, something here, it's going to be multiple pages with tons of criteria that open up loopholes that we can't see at this
Are you
point.
talking about the resort?
Yes.
The resort in particular.
In
So you
particular.
can forget about the resort with option B.
Right.
Because everything's included. That's sort of the reason that they went that path.
Hey, Eric, can I chime in real quick on the resort piece?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just, thinking through this a little bit here, it seems like the resort properties are ones where we want to drive that visitation, make sure those entities have licenses because they've got the amenities to take care of, a high loading. So one of my worries about Plan B is that it wouldn't necessarily give those properties a pipeline of licenses.
Right. Todd, I think what you could do is you could do like a hybrid B where B drew the zone. And then inside that zone, you could use that resort property descriptor as the difference in the STR saturation for those properties, if you were so inclined.
That makes a ton of sense. And then Jay, to your question on the properties in the zone and their HOA fees, a lot of those buildings are older, 70s, 80s. And so typically just, kind of back of the napkin, they're going to be higher dues and maybe not great for workforce housing because of that dues component catching up on, roof siding, all that sort of maintenance.
Question, Carol?
Yeah, so first, thank you all for your work on this. I think this does get us a step closer. It is hard when we're using these big building blocks to define areas. I fully agree with what's been designated as the zone 1, but in both options, I'm having a hard time with land use district 10, which is so large, which is just covers, I know we need to be very black and white with how we're using our land use guidelines to define what's in, what's out. But I'm wondering, just from your opinion, like, do you see certain areas where the land use guidelines as written maybe don't necessarily reflect the reality? And I guess even outside of that, if we do use those similar geographic qualifiers as an option 2, like west of Maine, south of North French, is there another definition for either streets or chunks of properties within 10 that we could be a little more loose with? Or again, going back to Kirsten, do we not have that flexibility to be so granular? But basically what I'm getting at is I'm having a hard time with land use district 10.
Yeah,
and
we,
keeping it
well,
entirely out.
as you recall, the committee actually recommended portions of 10 to be in. and but portions in, portions out. For example, the Shock Hill area, one of the things the committee was looking at was what kind of short-term rental usage is up here. It's like 20% of the units in Shock Hill had a short-term license. It's like, that shouldn't be part of this. Is it near the ski area? Obviously, the one thing about 10 is it's a much lower density assigned to it than these other areas that were defined. It wasn't intended so much as lodging property, but more single family, you know, duplex, that type of thing, townhome.
Acre.
So, yeah, I mean, there probably could be some criteria we develop, but those may apply to other areas besides 10 as well. So you get into this,
And
keep it fairly
which is,
basic,
I wouldn't wanna
or, you know.
open it up to our properties east of Main Street, the largely
Yeah.
residential areas. And I'm wondering if there is some sort of qualifier we can make with the caveat of west of Main Street, south of North French, that could possibly open up more of those properties that truly have historically been short-term rentals, that have been our bed base for visitors, and there's the infrastructure to support it there. So I don't know if that's just my feeling on council, but within land use district 10, I would love to explore something that could open it up for more properties if we think it's legally possible. And the majority of council agrees.
I think the problem is then you're really sort of throwing the land use designations out the window, because land use district 10 pretty much says permanent residence. I know things have changed since the land use district, but it depends what history you're talking about. You're talking about the history of the last 10 years, you're talking about the history since land use guidelines have been written, you know, that's 2 to 4 UPA in that zone, single family up to 8plex, you know, that was, I mean, that is designated as that in the guidelines. So, you know, I think either, yeah, I mean.
Yeah, that
Hey,
is-
Eric.
It's sticky. Yeah, Todd.
Hey, just curious, and Carol, thanks for bringing up that question, because that was kind of something that was just bubbling around in my head as well. Eric, does it change it at all if, say, that land use district 10 as the example, if part of it is touched by a ski run, or, you know, a lift station where you can onboard, does that change it at all in your mind?
Well, this is less in my mind. I mean, I'm really pretty open to anything, Todd. It's more about, if you're gonna hang your hat on the land use guidelines, you know, you go down one path. If you're gonna create something different, like, remember at one point we talked about 50 feet from a lift or ski run, you know, at one point we were talking about that as a criteria. I mean, it really all depends which path you want. And, you know, there's a couple things. One is defensibility, but the other one is ease of management for the community development. You can't make this thing so onerous on them that they're going to the county all the time to find out exactly where a property line is. So.
Yeah, I can certainly appreciate that. I think in my head, I'm comfortable with STRs over in that zone, and was just trying to be, I think, creative on like what's a defensible, thoughtful way of including, you know, land use districts that where it makes sense to me to have rentals. And, you know, is there some sort of measuring criteria that gets us there? So I'm not married to any outcome
Hey, Todd,
there.
You can totally ask the staff to, come back with something that shows, you know, a different configuration based on location to lifts and runs rather than by land use guideline.
And Mark, certainly I wouldn't want to make it onerous there. So I just thinking out loud here, like, would it make sense if any part of that land use district was within X feet, or, you know, or had a lift in it? Would that make it inclusive in that zone? Would that be smart? You know, and I'm curious what the rest of the council thinks on something like that.
Lift or a ski run?
It would have to be a lift terminal, because it doesn't matter if there's a lift in an area.
about a ski run?
Yeah, I mean, Chalk Hill is a,
Terminal.
is the one area where you actually have the terminal there, or not a terminal, but it's a turn station where you can load. The rest of it, the gondola is just going over it. And I don't know, maybe something up off of 4 o'clock.
And you would,
Just say they only have 20% short-term rental licenses?
Or parts of Shock Hill, right?
Residential, yeah, in the residential portions, in that recommendation, remember the task force worked on, Dick, we split out, so like the cottages and
Right.
right around have a higher percentage, right around the turn station there, but the rest of the stuff is much lower.
and if you open up 10, you likely open up Warriors Mark as well.
We open up a lot. That's
Mhm.
my concern.
Well, the Warriors Mark is not near a lift or a ski run.
They would be as close distance through like the bridge that crosses in front of the village. I think a lot of those
Parts of it, yeah.
parts of it would be just as
The
close.
lower part.
And Lehman is close, I think, to
Excuse me.
parallels the road there.
Tough to get to, though. Other questions?
One question on the definition, just for clarity, within the resort property definition, with the housekeeping clause, the property itself, like sometimes there's a handful of units that are self-managed or contracted elsewhere. That wouldn't exclude, it doesn't go unit by unit, it goes by property, right? So even if a unit is self-managed with housekeeping, it would still be in the resort category, right?
Can just make sure you have the mic.
So B follows the lugs more closely.
A follows the lugs exactly. B is the lugs plus 15 UPA and south of French, west of Maine.
But I think one of the things that I do like about B is that there aren't carve outs. And so it feels like people would know, realtors would know, people living there would know if they're in or they're out, and there wouldn't be weird boundaries to consider. I don't know if that's a real deal breaker, but I do like that about B. But I also like the resort. So I think the direction I'd be leaning would be resort, but with the,
Hybrid B.
yeah. But also I'm still going back to, we have not discussed number of licenses yet. And so even though that's in a table in this information, I'm still saying that we would be reducing to the, but I know we're not there yet, to the current cap.
3,700. Yeah. I'm in agreement with Kelly. I like B and I like the hybrid. I think we need to carve out the resorts because they've made a heightened investment in our community with all the meeting space. And not only the one-time capital investment, it's expensive to run that stuff. And if you don't have the bed base to support it, then, it's not going to work. So, and that's what has really filled in a lot of the group businesses is like it or don't like it, but a lot of that's why we filled in fall so well. So, I'm a hybrid B with the resort.
Jay?
I have a little bit of a different view on it. Looking at the numbers and understandably, I'm a little bit less tied to the cap when it comes to this particular part of the overlay. Because, I look at the numbers and I go, there's 600 units that don't have licenses, but that still I don't believe represent workforce housing at-risk units. And so I think that it could be cleaner with no resort carve out, going with option B, allowing those to not adhere to a cap number where it provides the clarity for the community, for our second homeowners, for potential buyers, for our real estate agents, and to kind of bring back some of that fluidity in the market where there isn't a wait list in that area. There isn't a complex algorithm. It doesn't, we're not putting in whether there is, how many square feet of amenity space and what qualifies as amenity space and what's open space. And, to me, location, I think is more important than quantity of units in this case. All this area has walkability. It really adheres to our destination management plan. More boots and bikes, less cars, to even out shoulder seasons and to have a year-long sustainable economy, and to protect the fabric of our community. And I think that this is where, the people before us, envisioned our guests to be. And I really don't see the reason to limit in this particular area. It provides the fact that we don't need a carve out for resorts. And it's kind of where I'm sitting.
Okay, so hybrid, or so B, no cap is what you're saying.
That's where I would be.
Okay. Carol, were you gonna ask him something? I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's really funny that you said that about the destination management plan, because I agree. There are some things that does achieve, but like balance for the community is, I feel like, one of the most important things that we're trying to achieve. And the comfortable carrying capacity of this town does feel like we are very busy, and there's a huge, not only employee shortage, but a huge amount of pressure on our employees to go all the time. And I really see that as a result of the number of people who are here using short-term rentals, because it's almost, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say something like this, but it's almost like fractional ownership, because they're always, so it's like turning this entire area into a place where every unit's full all the time. And we did that employment study that showed every short-term rental does result in increase in employees. And so I do think there's an impact, I do agree this is the right place to have them, but I still think there should be a cap, because just having as many units as are in there, and with everyone that has a short-term rental license, does impact how town feels and the demand on employees.
But the 600 units that are at risk of getting an STR license that don't.
But plus also that's 500 more than, it's 600 that could get it today, but we're already 500 over the cap. So it's 1,100, or I don't know, maybe let's just say 1,000 is what we're talking about, not just 600.
That are over the, right, but if there's 600 at risk today, we're still getting attrition through Main Street and east of town. And so that number will still come down. It'll just, albeit slower. And we never spoke about a timeline of trying to get there in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It was the fact that we needed to protect the fabric of this town, which is more of having attrition through those residential neighborhoods and having our guests who will have a better experience in this zone 1 than they will in zone 3, and migrating those over. And I'd love to look more, if anyone cared to, I'd look more at these 600 units that don't have license. Why don't they have them? They had their opportunity. Are these second homeowners that don't want to rent their place, that won't rent their place? Are there any workforce housing in there? Because I don't believe that if that went through this way, that all of a sudden we would have 600 more licenses. But yeah.
I fully agree that the resort properties should be pulled out. I think not just for the nature of their use, like what they do for our community, the net entities, all that, but also what it does to the rest of the numbers as we're looking at the balance. And so I think they should be pulled out. Again, I appreciate staff making this into chunks of discussion, but separating these geographic areas separate from the number conversation is a little tough. Really, I'm adamant on keeping resort properties out. A and B are similar enough that I'm open to discussion once we see what the numbers are. And my real pain point is 10. And if there is a way to explore making more properties available to be in zone 1 in there, but I don't know if others feel and if it's worth taking staff's time to do that.
How would you feel if parts of 10, well, never mind. So how do you, what would you support hybrid B? And
I
the-
think
with
B,
the
I'd be a
resort,
little-
And then some different discussion about 10 or
Yes.
B with no cap? and
No, I
discussion
would
about
like,
10?
I think the cap number is important and that is another discussion we'll have. And then also in tandem, if it's something where we need to continue to be nimble, actively monitor, but I think we do need to get this through. I would rather not revisit it, but I think we are gonna have to see what are the impacts and truly revisit these areas. But I'm more of the, if I had to choose now, more of the hybrid.
Jeffrey,
B with a hybrid. Yeah.
Todd?
I'm hybrid B, and I like Jay's goal of having it being uncapped, but I don't quite think we're there yet. I think we're more in line with Kelly and having kind of this unbalance between, we're just so far behind with workforce housing and childcare support that, you know, if we did add 500 new licenses, that concerns me. I'd like to get there. I don't think we're there yet from a housing stock for our employee base in the basin yet. And so, yeah, hybrid B, I'd like the carve out, certainly for the resort properties. I think they're an important element to what we're doing. And similar to Carol, I'm concerned about District 10 from the perspective of, and kind of going back to, you know, the destination management plan and wanting a bed base that is really going to serve folks that are coming for a week or two, that are flying in from somewhere, that, you know, just have that high level of finishes and higher bedroom count. And so I think we do need a stock of single families that are set up as rentals. You know, certainly I think it's important to be thoughtful about where those are located, and I think 10 is the spot for them. So if staff had the time, I'd love to see, you know, kind of a map that shows, yeah, proximity to a terminal and a ski run in a thoughtful distance that gives us that product to offer to our visitors. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Todd. I agree with hybrid B also. So can we see hybrid B numbers? Can we see what B with no cap looks like, and then what some change in land use district 10 could possibly be?
So your first two option B, the table does show what you just asked for. Zone 1 would be, includes all those resort properties in option B.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean the numbers like this.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I have conversations in my head and I don't let you hear them. If there's going to be a resort zone inside of B, what is the different STR saturation for those compared to the rest of that zone? That I'm sorry. I assumed you were listening to what I was thinking. The voices. And then similarly, what Jay's sort of looking at, so we have some clarification about B with no cap, what that would look like. And then he asked a couple of questions I think might be relevant as far as, there's not a ton of support, but I think we should still look at the information. What are those 600 units? What do they look like? And then what would 10 look like if you did what the recommendation from the overlay committee suggested? Is there a way to do that without muddying it too much? Sure. Everybody agree? Yeah, Dick.
I'm okay with that. I'm hearing from multiple people. I mean, Jason wrote a good letter. I think it's time we start coming to a conclusion.
Yeah.
We've been working on this a long time. I think we made a lot of progress. Thank you to you guys. You've been, every meeting, we seem to give you a long list of more things that we want to see. But, I can understand that, the real estate community really needs to, and with, interest rates going up and the economy flat and economic confidence going down. I don't know that it's fair to them to just continue to look and look and look and look. I would like to see us try to wrap it up in our next
Right,
meeting.
so we're settled on 2, we're
Yep.
settled on 3. Except I'd like to see if we could add a no fractional ownership in 3. I don't know if that is something we can do or not.
Oh, zones.
Uh,
Zones.
Zone 3, in the what we call the residential zone. So we're okay with zone 2, we're okay with zone 3. And then this zone, I think we have a majority for option B. Hybrid. There are
With the resort community carved out.
Right.
And I also think we need to decide, are we gonna set caps per zone?
Yes.
So that once they reach that number in that zone, then it opens up, because that'll put us over the 2,200. Are we okay with that?
I thought we were going to do it per zone.
I mean, that's what I'm in favor of, but I think we need to decide that. I'm just trying to anticipate anything else that'll slow us down. Because I'd really like to see us try to wrap it up.
We talked
Turn
about
it
that
into a-
percentage number of STRs, that saturation number in each of those zones and what those were and how those would reflect on that total number, right?
Yeah, we said it, so it's at 2,200 with the hard numbers in each zone.
Right.
But are we gonna allow us to go over the total 2,200 if zone 1 reaches their cap first and starts, and then another unit sells? Are we gonna add another license when zones 2 and 3 have not met their cap? So we're gonna essentially go over 2,200 if we start issuing more licenses in 1, which I'm in favor of personally. I think we need to let 1 go first. Zone 1 go first.
Yeah, I'm okay with that too.
I would still like to have an attrition plan though, like how we talked about months ago. We talked about 2 to 1, 5 to 1, whatever it was.
The migration concept.
Exactly.
Well, not really a migrate.
No, this is less of migration, and even if, so what you're saying is, even if zone 1 is below their cap, you wouldn't allow them to get a license unless
Until 2 units go away, then they get 1
some number
license.
of units went away somewhere else. Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's gonna take a little more discussion, I think. Or we can do it now.
We can have that discussion right now too.
I mean, I'm personally in favor. I think zone 3 is gonna take quite some time to get down. Zone 2 is gonna take a while as well. I mean, I think the community is really telling us, and I agree, and I think it makes sense. And I think from some aspects, we're all in favor. Maybe this is meeting Jay halfway, kind of. If we allow more licenses once that zone 1 hits its cap, then they can stay at that cap and so issue licenses when units are sold, natural attrition happens. I think that's an important compromise piece. It will put us over 2,200, but slowly, I think.
But are you saying then we'll only ever lose licenses from 3 and 2? We'll never lose licenses?
Well, we're gonna lose some to get down to the cap in zone 1 to start with. Because this cap right now in zone 1 is more than is less than the licenses now. So we're gonna lose units in zone 1 before this starts happening. But once they get there, we will have already lost quite a few, in the
What is
process.
the cap in zone? Is that in
I
last
don't- we
week's
don't have
packet?
Well, it's not, it's because it's different if you do the hybrid with the resort.
Yeah.
That number will be different.
But that's
I don't
my
think I can talk
my
about this
thoughts.
right now without really
Okay.
seeing the numbers, but I do agree with you. I want to get to a resolution and not keep so If we could just see the numbers before, in the packet next week so that we can.
Well, just clarification, I think the number is really 2,600 right now that we're at. So we got to get down to 2,200. We've
What-
already got it down where March we have to go.
But
without
most of that
additionally-
attrition is slated for zone 3 and
Correct.
2 and
Yeah.
lesser amounts in zone 1.
I didn't actually hear you guys, other than Eric just saying we're okay with zone 2, and that's great if you guys are, just in terms of if you guys had any other issues with how we wrote out zone 2 here. We had really taken the approach there, at least when we originally presented this to you, of it's kind of, you maintain the level of licensing there. If one goes away, someone that's on a waiting list could pick one up within zone 2. So it's really zone 3 that we're looking at for like
Attrition.
total that attrition to work.
I'm seeing no disagreement, so.
Can we talk about the fractional ownership for a second?
Yeah.
If that was on the table?
How does everybody feel about no fractional ownership
in our neighborhoods?
Let me just give you my thoughts real quickly on procedure. It would be a separate bill because it's not necessarily talking about licensing.
Oh.
So if you are like wanting to move it forward quickly, we can do that, but it would be a separate bill. And I think it would be worth just giving some options of how to tackle it.
Okay.
It sounds like you have one on the table.
Can you bring that back to us? And
Mhm.
if the option is to tie it to the geographic area of zone 3.
Yep, certainly. There are communities, I'm at least aware of one that has banned fractional ownership in single family residential, but as you will have seen, it becomes more difficult in Breckenridge because it's not just a clean zone district. But yeah, we can certainly look at that.
Or maybe 2 and 3, 2 and 3 or 2 and 3.
I don't have a preference. 2 and 3.
Okay.
Okay.
But I don't want to slow down this piece. We
Right.
need to wrap.
No,
this
no,
up.
that's
Yeah.
something she's going to work on herself.
With staff.
All by yourself.
Okay, does that give you enough to?
Yeah, I
move-
think
to
we
move
do
the
have the
ball?
numbers. If you want, we can pull them up on the screen, actually.
You know, it would have been nice
Yeah.
to have on these maps, the numbers, like
The zones.
the zones.
The land use.
Yeah, the tens and
Slugs.
whatever.
It might be good to come back with the numbers so that you guys have time to sort of review what you've asked for from tonight and then the numbers so that you have some time to think about that and what that looks like for your conversation at the next meeting, as opposed to trying to determine what you want cap numbers to be
Today, 28th.
tonight.
We can get the numbers for you, but just so you're aware, just think about option B and subtracting the resort properties from line 1 in option A. Those would give you your numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, and what the task force had recommended, just as a reminder, and obviously this is your guys' final call, was that the licensing be capped at 80% in zone 1. Right now, it was around 78%. So there was like this idea that there'd be a incremental amount, 50, 100 license be allowed in zone 1 up front. And then zone 2 would essentially stay the same. Zone 3 is where all the decrease in licensing would occur. So that's that was the task force recommendation.
Majority. I'm not sure that was unanimous. but I
No,
think
it wasn't.
was the
No.
Majority.
Yeah.
I'm probably with Shannon. Let's get the numbers, but let's try to come in the next meeting with the mindset of.
Come in swinging.
So if we can wrap it up in the next meeting. The hell am I? This is the 28th. That would be the 12th. We could look at first reading on the 26th potentially.
I'll do what I'm told.
Well, at least make an attempt at it. Does that sound legit to the council?
Yeah, Yes, I'm not the council. Are you guys looking at me?
No.
Is it going to take more than 2 weeks to draft the bill?
The drafting can be accomplished for sure. It's really throwing in some other things in the mix tonight. So we should be able,
We
it's
can leave the
achievable.
other things in the mix out until we get this done
Yeah,
and do that.
I think
late.
this is the priority over the fractional.
That is more than doable then, yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Are are you comfortable with the definition as is written for resort properties?
Yeah, well done, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thanks a lot. You guys worked a lot harder than I have.
That's work. It's not even saying anything.
I know, it's not really a compliment, is it?
What's the purpose of the resort definition if option B is on the table, if it includes all the resorts?
Because they would have a higher percentage than the 80%.
Got it.
They would have like a 90, I think it's 93 or 94% cap.
You'd still put a cap on the resort themselves.
They're at right now, so.
I would like to. And I'd like it to be a hard number, not a percent. We can come to the number, you're starting with the percent, but I don't want to see a percent. I want it to be a hard number.
We can argue about that one at the next one.
Because we talked about how like 3 bedrooms can be
Oh,
split
I know.
up.
I don't even want to start that one because that was so confusing. I don't even know where.
I think that's part of the reason for the discussion is that I think that the resort carve out provides, companies or organizations with means and savviness to
manipulate,
to skirt around them.
I don't know, it'd be hard to do. I mean, when you look at the requirements with 15,000 square feet of
No,
meeting
I think what
space.
Jay's saying is they can fudge their STR number by turning a 2-bedroom into a 3-bedroom with lock off and a non-lock off and that kind of thing. So. You mean as opposed to just doing no cap in the resort properties? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I like the idea of a level playing field. And, providing everyone in all organizations with the same opportunity in that given area. With what I believe is to be very low drawback. And right now, I think that there is potential to allow those with means to figure out different ways through lawyers or, architects or whatever to manipulate it.
I mean, we could keep going, but
Yeah,
I don't-
let's proceed and we can, at the next meeting, we can hammer the rest of these details out. And then hopefully we can come for a first reading at the next meeting. All right,
Thank you.
cool.
Thank
Bill,
you very much, Mark and team. I mean, that's, you guys have been phenomenal.
the changes regarding zero energy home ready home program. Are you staying for this one, Mark? Yeah,
Down.
we assumed.
So, actually, wanted to,
Can we make Todd's head bigger on the screen so he overwhelmed? Can we take us out and just have Todd?
Look at that melon.
I don't need to see myself.
I wanted to introduce, some of you may not have met Rick Fout. Rick's been with us for about a year and he's recently promoted to chief building official position.
Oh, welcome, Rick, or congratulations, I should say, not welcome.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Rick previously served in building official capacity in Glenwood and in Basalt. So we're very excited to have him on board here. And he's been involved in what we're going to talk about right now. As you remember, the council passed several years ago, the zero energy ready homes provisions to really, essentially you build a home and is all you need to do is add solar on it to be a net zero home in terms of producing as much energy as you consume. And so we did that several years ago. We had a training period put in place for builders, contractors to get used to that program. And then we were running into some issues with it. So about a year ago, we extended that program. We said, we're not going to, require full compliance with it yet. And that's basically where we still are right now. But there was a real desire to have the contractors meeting with the building officials, because this was a countywide effort to come up with some solutions. And we, working in a committee that Rick was a part of, there were two new options that were basically surfaced that'll have Rick shortly describe for you, that are essentially alternate prescriptive paths. So you can still go down the zero energy ready home path if you want, which is a Department of Energy program. But now there's a couple other paths as well. The county Board of County Commissioners just adopted this about a month ago. So it's already basically a done deal as far as the county goes. We're feeling pretty comfortable about it, and the contractors are too. But Rick, go ahead and you can just describe it a little more.
Sure. Thanks, Mark, for the introduction and some of what I'll be re-going over slightly. Hi, Mayor. Hi, Council. Hi, Shannon, Kirsten. Thanks for having me, you guys.
Put that mic a little closer to your ear.
Super excited to be here and to be shooting this subject a little further up the ice, this puck a little further up the ice today. I feel like the energy code thing has been part of my dailies on the regular every day for the 11 or 12 months I've been working for the town of Breck, and going back further, 25 years spent in the Aspen Valley, previously first as a green builder and later as a building department guy over there. I think the energy code thing has been in most of my adult life, actually. Disclaimer, since it's always changing, it doesn't make me a complete energy guru, more just a person who knows enough about it to be dangerous. But now on to my presentation. I'll move as fast as I can, but I want to do a good job. This stuff is important. I'm going to start with some key points to orient us, roll into some important notes that I need to exclaim, and then end with a brief summary of what's being proposed and why. I'm here to introduce to you two new proposed prescriptive-based above energy code compliance options to use alongside the performance-based pure Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home program on only new from the ground up residential, including multifamily projects. These two new options have been in the process of being developed over many prior months by a steering committee, which I was honored to be a strong part of, consisting of many area builders, their suppliers of windows and insulation, for example, their designers as in architects and energy consultants, and essentially their building departments, the builders' building departments, as well as many area energy entities, including High Country Conservation Center. The steering committee, which has to the greatest degree possible perfected these two new options, was formed from members of the Summit Sustainable Building Code's longstanding technical advisory board, which Mark was a part of that board actually, and all headed up by Mr. Scott Hoffman, Summit County's building department's former chief building official. While I'm on the county subject real quick, a short important note to highlight is, as Mark mentioned, Summit County has already adopted these two new above energy code compliance options already. Their versions are included in y'all's council packet for review, by the way. These are to the peer department. These are options to the peer Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home program, which does remain available in Summit County and is also proposed to remain as an option here in Breck. As the first and foremost available option for projects it fits well with. And so I'm positive that you all become aware. I want to state that the Summit County Building Department has already begun to roll these two new prescriptive options out for builders to choose from and use on, again, only new from the ground up, residential, including multifamily projects in their jurisdiction. Here is an additional, even shorter important note that ties to that last one. The Breckenridge Ridge Building Department has always strived and tried to at least to remain as consistent as possible with building and energy codes to do with matching other nearby neighboring jurisdictions like Summit County and others for the sake of our building community's sanity who are out there operating across the conjoining areas. That's enough about the county and all that stuff. I'm on the downhill side now of this presentation, so you know. Before I summarize the two new options details, I want to speak to the reason for the need of options to the Superior Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program that we heard from our area builders, that I'm sure some of you have heard too. And that is the difficulty they were having getting a one size does not fit all program in climate zone 7, where Breckenridge and Alaska both live, to coexist with some of the unique to our area designs that have very large interior spaces with many high ceilings and more windows than walls sometimes, as an extreme example. Thus, an emergency ordinance reinvigorating a training period had to be put back into place in both Breckenridge and Summit. As very good builders struggled to get their energy certification from the Department of Energy in the end, and ultimately their certificates of occupancy from the building departments as well. With that background behind us, all that's left for me to do now is to summarize the new options and to get out of your hair. Well, the second one, the first being the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program itself, which will be coming out with a newer, better 2.0 version soon that takes climate zone 7 more into account nicely, is basically exactly the prescriptive energy compliance option from the 2021 International Energy Code Conservation Code. This will be a well above code, considering that any building geek that you run into, any building code geek that you run into can tell you that the 2021 IECC is a big jump up from the 2018 IECC version we are all presently on in our building area. Aspen is the only mountain town that I know of that is already on the 2021, and we all know how energy conscientious they are and have been for a long time. This option is also very nice for our builders if it fits their project better than the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program, because it is in an easily digestible and applied format for them that they are used to executing for many years. It's part of the international codes. It's the Energy Conservation Code, the tried and true IECC, of which the mountain towns have been on for many code cycle adoptions and for many years running. We are ourselves on the 2018 IECC for all the other types of projects in our town currently. Now, the third one, the second new above energy code option, in other words, is a slightly less intense thermal envelope. That's the building shell, in essence, than the 2021 IECC version option would have them doing. And so, you know, most of the concessions are in the windows and doors category, which is a tricky one in the climate zone 7 that we are in. However, please keep in mind this option wisely mandates an above code requirement of on-site alternative clean energy like ground source heat pumps, and more so because it is the most affordable and recognized alternative clean energy, photovoltaic solar system arrays on any residential project electing to choose this option for its above energy code compliance. Two things to note here are: one, the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program, being a national program, does not take into account on-site solar systems and solar energy production, which is not all that possible everywhere in the country. The 2.0 version is said to be trying to incorporate it though. For your information, this has often been one of the rubs designers and builders have with it, and justifiably so, I believe. And two, and lastly, this on-site solar requirement is a step in the right direction of an important couple of buzzwords running around right now. I'm sure you've heard them: total electrification, that is. Now, I would like in conclusion to point out a few important final items about the proposed new options. One is that they both limit the amount of glazing allowed to 30% fenestrations versus wall ratios. Two is that they would end the training period to the Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Home program, formerly adopted, and the possible perception of indecisiveness on our part to do with the matter. And three is that we would like, if council is supportive, to take all of this to the first reading at the next regular meeting of yours and move swiftly to a second reading the next regular meeting afterwards, in an effort to catch up to our neighboring jurisdiction sooner than later, and for the sake of our builders' busy season that we're right smack dab in the middle of. Thank you.
Questions? Kelly Owens.
How does this work? I know that we've been in the training period, so people, or architects, I guess, should have a pretty significant amount of this work done, but if someone is in the architectural, like if they submit their plans over the next couple of months, how does this work?
I think I know where you're going. Any job that's in the building department and has been approved under certain codes, energy ones like the Department of Energy, Zero Energy Ready Home, will have to follow through and
Yeah, the
adhere
old
to all
code.
of that. And then any new jobs coming in, if this were to go into action, we would restart and be applying these new options as an option to the Department of Energy.
So if the first reading is at July 12th, then this would take effect.
35 days after the second reading.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
so it'd
still
probably be
3
like
months out?
September,
Okay.
early September where it would take effect.
Okay.
And at that point, any application that came in after that point would have to go through the new program.
Okay.
But they'll have more options now. Obviously, one of them is, so we adopt codes every 6 years. The international codes come out every 3 years.
Mhm.
But we skip a cycle, and that's standard for most of the jurisdictions up here to skip a cycle. So we were on the 2012. A couple of years ago, we adopted the 2018. We weren't going to adopt it again until the 2024 came out.
Mhm.
But now because of this, we're at least adopting the energy portion of the 2021 code now in terms of that being an option for them to, reach compliance.
And you think going live with this in September gives them sufficient opportunity to get in line with what we're requiring?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. And a further nuance of your question, those jobs and projects that are in motion and under the Department of Energy's Zero Energy Ready Home program would also still have the luxury of falling back on the training period, even if we close it out after these new options come on for the new projects onboarding. I like that is still just kind of a general rule of any job that's come in under any type of codes or emergency versions like that, is that they would be able to continue to work with us, and we could provide a little flexibility to get them to that end point of their certificate of occupancy.
We have staffing to oversee all this stuff. Yeah.
Say again?
Staffing, are we, these new guidelines, will that slow up any sort of construction, or are we?
I think it could actually swiftен some of them.
Okay.
There'll still be jobs that'll choose the Department of Energy's program because it fits well, and
Right.
or they just want to do that highest level of quality control with their green building and their energy. And then there'll be ones where that's difficult, and they've realized that on their other projects, having to go through it the last couple of years, and they'll choose one of these other above code options. I'll point out that they're still way above code options, which is our goal, to only provide options that are above code up here as we should be building.
Kelly, back to your question, we'll check with the county and just see how I know what you're saying, like if an architect's been designing something for 6 months, is it
Yeah.
now, so let us check with the county before we come back for first reading, just see how they're handling that.
It'd be nice if it was the county and Breck, because there's so many.
I think it's important we mirror both.
Yeah.
I reached out to a couple builders and they were very appreciative of the process and what we've come up with. So
It was a good process. We involved some builders in the beginning and added some as we went along. And we had a good smattering of experts.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Other
thank
questions?
you just so much. I live with a builder, so I talk more about zero energy ready homes than I ever wanted to. So I think we're in a much better place. I know it was a tremendous amount of work, and both the work done as a town and as part of the committee, an incredible amount of outreach to the building community to make sure something that they could comply with, understand. So thanks so much. I think the options are wonderful. It's same as the county builders know, and it seems very implementable. One question looking forward though, as our goal really is to go net zero by 2030, where's this in the step? Are we going to have another rollout in a couple of years and a couple of years later? And with that process, we need to galvanize this like engaged building community to make sure that they're engaged as part of a working group as we roll out these new codes. And I think more immediately, if we discuss REMP again.
Yeah, we'll want to keep the builders and the building community and all these experts that we compiled for this phase involved in all of the other times that we have this putty back in our hands. As you know, Mark mentioned, we're always adopting new code cycles. For instance, when we do adopt the 2021, this one option that is the 2021 pretty much exactly will not be so above code anymore. And at that juncture, we'll get that committee back together and we'll be searching for, you know, a higher pyramid and goal. So I hope that answers.
I
your
guess
question.
the other thing I'd say is the International Energy Code is going to continue to ratchet up. It's moving in the same direction. And honestly, some communities are talking about now, even there's one I just saw in Colorado, requiring electrification only and not bringing natural gas. We've made that personal choice on our or community choice on our town projects. But if you really want to avoid all carbon, you got to move to renewable model where you're electrifying only your, you know, your heating, your electricity, and then you're relying on obviously the source, the, you know, Excel to move to 100% renewables, which they are moving in that direction, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Jay?
Rick, thanks for your presentation. I appreciate it. Quick question. How do the energy raters fit into this? Like, do you still require a full HERS report?
Only on the ones going through the Department of Energy's, program. On the others, it will revert to kind of as it's been done in the past. It's the IECC's version, which no, that's not required. Yep. You know, the raters could be opposed to this if they thought about it on a business level, but on a moral level, they're not, because, you know, they've definitely suffered some of the angst and had to work through this with their builders, whom they want to keep as repeat customers. There are often times where the planning department will need a rating, you know, for something in their qualifications, and we won't. So yeah, they'll continue to be busy throughout these three options, particularly on the Department of Energy ones, as they've been the last couple of years. But it might give them a little reprieve to, you know, just sharpen their pencil and a little more quality control options with a little more time.
Great, thanks, Rick. And is the 25% offset for PV, is that off of just the electrical or through the electrical load or the entire building?
Get back to you on that one. Wouldn't want to shoot from the hip. I don't have that answer right on the tip of my tongue.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Jay,
for
you're
having
good
me.
going forward. Jeffrey? All right, thank you. Great to meet you. Good luck as the chief.
Yeah.
Okay, annual parking report.
So we are gonna try to fill Matt's shoes, which is not gonna be easy.
I'm sorry, I forgot about you. And he's gone.
And he's gone.
Hey, Todd, I'm sorry. Did you have any comments on the last one? I forgot.
Yeah, thanks for giving me a sec there, Eric. I appreciate it. Yeah, just curious if we could get a list of who was on that committee and if they did have any votes on, you know, kind of what was proposed. I would love to see kind of where the votes stacked up, but certainly a list of who worked on that would be amazing, just to give us a resource to talk to folks to get a little bit smarter on this and, you know, making sure, you know, we understand how the overall building community feels. But overall, good stuff. So nice work.
Thanks, Todd.
Mark's nodding.
All right.
Teddy's gonna kick it off, and then we will be available to answer any questions that you might have. And
Here
if
comes Shelby.
for some
right
reason,
on time.
if for some reason Shelby doesn't have all the answers, we will get answers for you.
Shelby, why don't you sit up at the part of the crew?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Again, I'm here today to present the annual parking report, and I'm joined with Shelby Schwendeman, the General Manager of Breck Park, and we'll be presenting the parking report for you to review, answer your questions, and receive any feedback As Shannon mentioned, Matt really wanted to be here to do this, but you're in good hands with us and we can guide you through this conversation. So this is the first annual parking report being presented to you by the town's new mobility division. The mobility division was formed late last year to oversee parking, transit, and sustainability within the town. Being a new division, this is the first year that this team has compiled the report. And for the sake of consistency, we have left the report as it read in the past years, just kind of updating the numbers and narrative with the numbers we saw in the 2021-2022 season. We look forward to putting a new touch on the report for next year. As you probably notice, the report is rather data heavy, so it may require some additional discussion to help with understanding it. But hopefully you've had the opportunity to review the report, and we wanted this to be a time for an open discussion to answer your questions and understand what's most important to council as it relates to parking in our community. And I'll open it up there. I do have 3 questions. That's on the last page of the report that we would like to get some council direction on at the end, but we can start with whatever you guys want to dive into first.
All right. Questions about the report?
But not the questions on 1, 2, 3, just the report in
Just
general.
questions on the report in general,
Okay.
what we're seeing. You can ask questions about the questions
Yeah.
if you so
If I have a
desire.
question on the question.
Questions only at the moment.
Is this our first consideration of a price adjustment since we went to paid parking, or have we done this
Yeah,
before?
we've done it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We actually had a recommendation for an increase when COVID hit. And we didn't do it. We did kept our increase that we needed in the ice rink, but the rest of the changes we didn't make.
Questions?
No question.
Kellen?
It's very interesting.
You know, increased parking violations from 30 to 50. I get 2 violations within 12 hours and they charge me 90. Why is that? You know who I was?
2 within 12 hours.
Oh, is that
Same
what-
place or?
Yeah. One was my wife. I thought it was 40 and 50.
It is. So that recommendation for the 30 to 50 is actually for the non-pay parking fines. So it's for the signs prohibit, parking here to corner,
Oh, okay.
delivery zone, permit required, failure to pay tickets. First violation is 40,
I
second
should have
violation is
parked
50.
there
Yeah.
illegally rather than.
Yeah, you should have parked in a delivery zone instead
I
of
get you,
not
thank you.
not paying for parking. I can feel Matt beaming down on me from the Zoom screen right now.
We're gonna hand these chaps face next. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Do you guys have any ideas on how we could increase collection rates? I think I saw it was at 60%. Have any successful best practices out there?
Yeah, we're actually working with some of the privately owned locations that we operate here in Breck and do have some recommendations. It's been an ongoing conversation that we've had with the town, Shannon, Teddy, Matt, and we continue to have that conversation and just showing this data and seeing where we are. I think that's something that we're gonna really hit hard on. You guys all agree. And we do have recommendations. It's just trying to streamline it and find the best for Breck as a municipality.
I mean, 60% is pretty bad, right?
I think a lot of it had to do with not we stopping the warnings. A lot of from the Breck Park standpoint, our office was just a lot of people saying, hey, I thought I got a warning, thought I got a freebie, you could call it. But now that they don't have that sort of, one to kind of learn off of, we're just seeing a lower payment rate. But it's been, in my opinion, and the numbers show it's directly caused by the no more warnings. I think after this first year of being, a whole entire year of no warnings, we'll see a increase in the collections rate, hopefully, as well as the efforts that we're going to put in as a whole to increase that with no warnings.
So is that on town to do collections or is that on Breck Park?
No, they take care of collecting for us, but there's quite a few things I think that we can do to improve those numbers.
We need to get dog the bounty hunter. Yeah.
Questions, Carol or Jay?
I had the same question as Dick with the not paid, and if you subtract off the appeals accepted, how that did, but you guys answered that. When I was looking at the pay parking revenue for South Gondola for the 1920 season versus the 21-22, it was threefold, just about, right? And we didn't increase parking threefold. We only increased parking by, 400 spots. So how does that balance out?
Where are you seeing that?
This is page
Page 4. I'll take the first stab at that. I think part of it just could be it's a flashy new parking structure, and we get some more people parking in there just off of the curb appeal of it.
Are you, I'm sorry, are you looking at 18-9? Well, either, so South Gondola lot, we controlled in the summer.
It's just.
And so that's just our summer
Oh, thank
revenue
you.
prior to 21-22.
That's it. Brilliant.
That's a better answer.
It's the true answer.
Only because I'm old and I've been around a little while.
Other questions? All right, how about answers on the 3 questions? Who'd like to go first?
Yeah, Eric, I had a couple more questions,
sorry,
if that's
Kyle.
cool to jump
Hey,
in.
man, I just looked at you too. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. Let me just flip over to my notes here real quick. Yeah, I agree on the collections piece. One of the things I was just curious about is, would it be smart to increase the fees on the kiosk to incent the migration kind of over to the app use? Seems like that's one, it's just quicker, right? Like you see folks walk up to the kiosk, they walk back to their car to get their license plate, they walk back, they type it in, it's cold, they drop their glove. So yeah, I wonder if that helps with turnover. So I guess that was one question. The other one was, do we have a relationship with somebody that does parking decks for a living that could maybe help us on the fee structure with the parking structure to maybe minimize exits from 3 to 5 during ski season? Is there some sort of exit surcharge during that window that helps us just get a better flow in town and maybe get people to stick around longer? That was just a question I had out there. The third one, I stepped out for a second there, was, and so I don't know if you guys hit on this at all, but yeah, curious on the cost to park at Ice House in Tonopah, after 3 to 4 hours. Do we want to make that similar to Main Street where there's kind of a crank up there in price to maybe get a little more turnover? When I looked at the numbers, around 10% in both those lots are more than 5 hours, and just over 15% in both of those are more than 4 hours. So, a lot of long-term parking, eating up spots at a really low cost. And then I guess kind of the final question was, do we tweak pricing to get fewer 4-hour stays in any other spots where we really don't want that like long-term, hey, park for the day and ski for $6. So yeah, that was just, what was on my mind.
So the parking fee structure in the structure, we have to work with the ski area on the winter pricing. So it's really set by them. So we don't have a lot of flexibility in what that looks like, but we worked really well with them last season on how we set that pricing and when it was free and that kind of thing. So I think we can continue to have those conversations with them. And then Shelby may be the best person to comment on the kiosk to app conversion, because there are fees that we absorb. And it's just been our practice not to charge the customer for those fees. So I don't know, Shelby, if you want to add anything.
Shelby, you can pull that mic closer.
Or I can sit closer. Both work. We are seeing a huge increase in people using the app more than the kiosk. COVID had a big spike in that. It was already going up at a rate, but COVID really increased that rate. We do have a lot of customers that are very dedicated to the kiosk type of use, just wanting to stay. The one thing, like what Shannon was speaking about, so the town right now pays 20 cents per transaction on the app so that the guest doesn't have to. So the more that we increase, and that's something that we can chat with Passport about to see if we can lower that fee if we direct more traffic to use the app, and whether it be a rate structure or incentivizing mobile use versus a kiosk.
Are there any places that only use app that don't use kiosk?
In Breck, yes.
I mean, towns, other towns that just have gotten rid of the whole kiosk.
Not entirely. There are towns that have very limited number of kiosks and maybe not as frequent in certain more secluded areas as not having them at all. But overall, I haven't seen a 100% no kiosk.
It is our hope, though, that we will increase the app usage so that when it comes time to replace kiosks, we can do less.
Yeah, just don't replace it.
Yeah. So, do you guys want to talk about what you've proposed for Ice House in Tonopah?
Yes. So we have for Ice House in Tonopah, Monday through Thursday, starting at the second hour, it'd be increasing from 50 cents to 75 cents. And then once you get down to the fourth hour, it goes up from $1 to $1.25 through the rest of the day beyond there. So that's pretty mild for the Monday through Thursday. On the Friday through Sunday there, starting with the second hour, it would go from, currently it's at $1 for the second hour. That would jump to $1.25. Third hour goes from $1.50 to $2. Fourth hour goes from $2 to $2.75, and it's $2.75 every hour after that for the rest of the day. So Todd, based on your comments, it sounds like you'd be interested in seeing that be a little bit higher than what we proposed there.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit of tweaking there. I think that makes sense. I'm in support.
Okay.
Hey, Todd, like after the fourth hour, make it more expensive, or starting with the fourth hour?
I think I'm flexible there. I just think in like Ice House, in my mind, I don't know that you want a bunch of spots taken up by folks that are sitting there for 5 hours, 4 or 5 hours was kind of my take on it. But you know, you've got a lot more hours of time in that lot. What do you think?
I think starting somewhere around that fourth hour, we should ramp it up too. There's still a ton of employees that park back there. Well, I shouldn't say a ton. That's a dumb thing to say. There are employees that park back there.
Just eat it.
Just eat it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to spend $100 for the yearly pass. They figure they'll just spend, while they figure it out. So that part, I don't really understand that, but there are people that ski back there too. And you see them in the morning getting their stuff on, and then they leave their car. If you ski, say you start skiing at, 8, say you're there at 8, you can go 8. You get the first two hours are free. I mean, you could go till 2 o'clock without spending a lot of money. So, sorry.
And I think that's where my head was at, is like, can we free up those spots to make sure, the businesses are getting customers out of using those close-in spots and migrating employees and skiers into better spots for them. That's where my head's at on all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Maybe the third hour is where we should start ramping up if you're seeing, that first, it is so cheap to start.
Which is what we want for 2 hours, but
Right.
yeah, I'm with you, Shane, to make it start to hurt the third hour and then really hurt.
So maybe 50-50 and then jump it to $1.
Yeah.
And then keep ratcheting it up. Don't leave it at 125.
What goes along with that is having, places for our employees to park, and, looking at the number of permits in the employee north, there's 600 permits. How many spots are there now with the decrease of that island there? But the increase of the professional building about the same?
Yeah, it's about the same. I think technically, we were speaking with Matt in Public Works that the parking along the islands were actually never valid parking spots. So technically it's only like -2 spaces than what it was prior. But it's employees, they have completely different schedules, different days of the week. And so that's why there's more permits sold. As far as I've worked with Interstate Parking, Breck Park, there's never been a cap on the number of permits sold. As long as you're in the correct business district, then you can apply for that employee permit. And that's just where it is at the moment. There are lots of other places to park other than East Sawmill. On a lot of employee permits, people just sometimes get in habits of parking in their regular spot. And then when it's full, not necessarily realizing that they have other places on the other side of town to park.
Gotcha. What is the standard ratio for like an employee lot? Is it like 5 employees per spot, or do you know how that, like what that?
Get back to you on that one, because we'd have to look at all of an employee zone as a whole, versus a specific lot like East Sawmill, which is now all one big lot.
Right.
So I can get back to you on that for sure.
I'm just curious, like if we're gonna make it hurt more on the hourly basis, as mentioned, I just want to make sure we're not hurting our employees and that we have a place to where they can go. And if it is the north permit or the south permit, that we keep an eye on that ratio to make sure that it's appropriate.
Jay, one thing I'd say is that I think we should ask Shelby's team to do more enforcement in the employee lots for people that are not employees. It's the one thing I sort of hear from employees is, who are all these people that are parked there this early? Those are definitely not employees. So
I see them.
yeah, I think a
Tiger Dredge.
I think just ramping up enforcement in those areas. If you don't have maybe that's where some of that $90 goes.
I think it would help to also increase that fine structure, like the first recommendation where we do get comments where we'd be like, hey, this is an employee only lot. And the guests will be like, well, how much is a parking ticket? They'll see the $30 and they'll be like, oh, I'm just gonna pay
Worth it.
So I don't know if, maybe there should be in employee zones, maybe a different sort of fine structure or some sort of, way to discourage it.
I would totally.
Yeah.
Me too. So if you're parking without a permit, you're gonna wish you had a permit, like my kids.
Would you like $100? I mean, how high do you want to go in the employee? If you're supportive of going to 50,
I'd go C note.
pardon?
I'd go 100.
I go 100 in employee lots.
Yeah, employee lot for sure.
Let them know that we value our employees parking,
We have a limited number of places where it's employee only, so.
Maybe we can even sign that fine $100.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
they know.
good.
Yeah, it's expensive parking for the day.
Yeah, you're better off parking in the structure.
I mean, if it is an employee who just didn't get their pass yet, can we have an option where instead of the fine, they just buy a permit?
Yeah, we do that all the time. So yeah.
I started that last year.
It encourages people to get employed by the town.
So everybody good with the fine increases?
Yes.
Yeah,
For
the
those-
late fee, 10 days going to 50, that seems harsh to me. I don't know.
You wanna make it
You
more
guys have more
general?
experience than I in collections, but I mean, I'm all for the 50 for the ticket, but the 10 days later, slap them with another 50. I don't know.
Wonder if there's research that if a ticket goes unpaid after the first 10 days, the delinquency goes to like.
I was just gonna say
90%,
that, yeah.
Tenfold or something.
Shannon?
Real incentive for people to pay it right away.
Okay.
And then, right, and not forget to pay. I mean, I think they have people who get the ticket and come right, like, they're like, I want to pay right now. So it does incent people to get it paid.
I don't feel strong. That's fine.
So we're good with that.
Yeah.
Number 2, are we good with coming up with a new structure for Ice House in Tonopah?
Yeah, so is that gonna be for Monday through Thursday and Friday through Sunday, or just the weekend?
Has to be both.
Okay, I think that makes sense. I just wanted clarification.
There are plenty of times through the year that Monday for Thursday and Friday and Sunday are no different.
No,
Like
and
next week. will
and
not be
1075 seems like a real deal.
And it is. And then third, the increases on Central and South Main. Everybody okay with that?
Those are okay as proposed. Okay.
I love we're using data, that we're using that
Yeah.
percentage of vacancy. That's great.
Right? Anything else?
Todd had anything?
Todd, you got anything else on either of those two?
I wouldn't mind seeing the main go up a little higher as it gets later in the process. Kind of same thing with the ice house, right? Like make it painful if you're there 5-6 hours on Main Street.
So
I
hours
think.
3 and 4, Todd?
Yeah, something like that.
The
So,
fourth
somewhere in
hour's
that.
already- We're going to $6 at the 4th hour. That's, you're already starting to get outside of what it costs you to park at the gondola.
I don't know, the 4th hour seems too soon to make a huge jump there to me because people like to walk all of Main Street and stop for lunch.
And when we're busy and it's a 2-hour wait all over town, you don't, you're not gonna leave because you just found a parking spot.
And it encourages people to like circle again and find a different parking spot.
Well, you can buy more time. No, I guess you
You
can't.
can't.
No,
You
it's
can't
not
re-
at
no
the
reparking.
earlier rate, yeah.
And we could start, we could ramp it up in the 5th or 6th hour. Todd, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, something like that sounds good. Just to, when I looked at like the ratios and percentage of folks that were hanging out like that long, I was kind of surprised how many folks were there that long. So, yeah, I'm not married to it, but something like that sounds good to me. If there's other support.
He's tough on crime.
He is, man.
He
He
really
was here
is.
when we instituted this.
I
We'd
know,
already
kidding.
had $40 for the
Yeah,
first hour.
geez.
All right, anything else?
No.
Thank you. Well done.
We can make the changes and then maybe put them in the mobility report for your next meeting, so you see what it looks like and then give us a thumbs up.
Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Teddy was at BOSAC last night.
Can you straighten it out?
He's just working hard. I just
gonna
want to
straighten
appreciate
it out.
that.
Okay, we're gonna go and do executive session. Does anybody need a break before we dive into this? You do?
We,
The other room anyway, that's right.
Oh.
Do we
Do
do
the
we
motion.
do the motion here?
Do we need to carry a gear?
Or here. Do we have one?
Yeah, she mailed it to us. You want to read mine since I
Where did he mail it to us?
I think Rick usually hands it out and
He does.
he's not here, but I have an extra copy if you want.
I do too.
use mine. And then I'll
I move that the town council go into executive session under CRS 246402 4B relating to conferences with the town attorney for purposes of receiving legal advice on a dispute about the interpretation of a water lease agreement dated September 1, 2000, entered into by the town and Vail Summit Resorts, Inc.
She needs to read all three of them,
We'll take them each.
one at a
individually.
time.
Oh, second.
Can you vote? Voting on each topic.
Yes, do you want to call us by name or do you want us to just voice
Oh.
vote?
Sure, I can do this. Mayor Mamala,
Yep. Yes.
Pro Tem Owens,
Yes.
Councilman Beckerman,
Yes.
Bergeron,
Yes.
Carlton,
Yes.
Rankin,
Yes.
sorry, and Councilwoman Sade.
Yes.
Okay. I move that the town council go into executive session CRS 246402 4E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators concerning property the town may be interested in acquiring in partnership with Summit County for workforce housing purposes.
All right.
That
Jeffrey.
Sounds like a second. Mayor Mamala,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens,
Yes.
Councilman Beckerman,
Yes.
Councilman Bergeron,
Yes.
Councilman Carlton,
Yes.
Councilman Rankin,
Yes.
Councilwoman Sade.
Yes.
One additional issue, the third issue.
I move that the town council go into executive session CRS 246402 4E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategies for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators concerning a property that town may be interested in acquiring for municipal purposes and whether the town may engage appraisal services.
Second.
I think.
Yes, Jay.
Jay.
Mayor Mamala,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Owens.
Yes.
Councilman Beckerman.
Yes.
Councilman Bergeron.
Yes.
Councilman Carlton.
Yes.
Councilman Rankin.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sade. Set, do you want
To read this in that room?
Yep.
Okay. Decision as to whether to enter into and execute a final agreement on the acquisition property is the authority of the manager.
There we go.
All right, we are concluding and we will resume at 7 o'clock for the night meeting.
Kelly, will you hand me that power strip? Kind of push it my direction. I want to just. Wow. Oh, yeah.
Where'd that go?
Holy humans. First go.
Is this so annoying for you? I can unplug it.
No,
Do you want to just reach
fine,
it?
no.
Just
Just gonna
unplug
kick it- I'm just gonna kick it
unplug
over.
it.
It's fine.
Okay.
You can unplug me if you want, Kelly.
No, it's fine.
Good. That's a good looking crowd out there.
Let's call to order the Tuesday, June 28th, 2022 Town Council regular meeting. It is 7 PM. Roll call, please.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton.
Here.
Mr. Bergeron.
Here.
Ms. Sade.
Here.
Mr. Beckerman.
Present.
Mr. Rankin is absent. Mayor Mamula.
Yes. Approval of the minutes for June 14th, 2022. Any? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Minutes look good.
Minutes approved as presented. Agenda.
Mayor, we have one addition. The Breck Creative Arts will be giving an update under communications to council.
Thank you very much. All right, and with that, we go to communications to council and we start with Breckenridge Creative Arts.
Good evening. Thanks for adding me to the agenda. Just a couple of quick updates for you as we head into our busy season. I know top of mind is the Syncline, the Pele sculpture on the Riverwalk Plaza. So we work with a specific contractor based out of Denver called Demiurge, and the earliest they could get here is July 8th. And we'll be working with them to get a quote and start working on our options together with town staff and come back to you as soon as we have more information. We are continuing to rebuild our team so that we can better serve the community and our partners. I'm pleased to share that we have a great facilities manager starting to add to the already excellent service that we get from the town of Breckenridge, and that's Rob Phipps, and he'll join us starting on July 11th. We've also finally gotten a new marketing director on board, Tor Lindsay, as well as a data specialist. But what has been so encouraging in this process is that for these positions, we've really seen an excellent candidate pool, which is opposite of what you might have expected. And I think it's a testament to this generation really wanting to work for a mission and the importance of the arts in our community. So it's been great to have some passionate people come on board. So we're excited for you all to meet them at our various events. Other than that, we're busy entertaining people. We are looking forward to the July 4th holiday, of course, and in partnership with everything that the Tourism Office and NRO do. We'll be hosting our Arts District Campus family event. The air stage will be out with a DJ, and the theme is Surfin' USA. Lots of fun activities, should be a great time. That takes place from 11 to 4 p.m. We were able to solidify our staffing for air stage block parties, and we kick those off in mid-July with Wellington, and also we will be serving Vista Point, Gibson Heights, French Creek, Blue 52, and the workforce housing along Airport Road. So that's really exciting. And we are indeed closing the chapter officially on the Breckenridge Music Festival on July 12th. You'll see an exhibition of all of the 40 years of posters in Old Masonic Hall, which, you know, dress all of the walls of every single short-term rental property in the community. So we'll just be recognizing those long-term community members who've made that organization possible since 1980. So that is a nice event. We invite you to come out on July 12th to Old Masonic Hall and be a part of it. One exciting thing that we have going on is a new artist in residence who joined us last week. Her name is Calder Kamen. She'll be doing a variety of open studio workshops. She's a plastic sculpture artist. So you may have noticed we've been doing plastic collection events for material to support her residency and the large scale installation that she'll be preparing during her time for Trail Mix series. And so we're taking all of the community's 5s, 3s, 4s, everything that you can't drop off at the county at specific events. And we've had some great success with that. And really excited to co-create this sculpture with members of the community as well. And of course, have a slew of volunteers coming out to help install it. One thing that you may not know is that we took all of the plastic sleds off of the town's hands from Carter Park this year. And they are living on the Arts District campus, waiting for us to turn them into something either useful or beautiful. And so we are 90% sure that we can use that type of plastic in our new program, Precious Plastics, and we'll be working with a Front Range based company to turn those sleds into, if the plastic is right, into benches that will be put onto Ridge Street Art Square, and we'll close that down and have them out and ready as long with an interpretive precious plastics installation with the air stage during the BIFA time, so that that parking lot will be closed during those 10 days of the festival, and we'll showcase specifically that program, which we hope to build and grow over time. Lastly, we kick off live at the Riverwalk, our popular music present series on July 7th with the Steel Drivers. We have a great lineup. We hope that you'll be our guests to celebrate this first concert. We'd like to just extend a limited quantity of first come, first serve tickets to the entire town staff, as well as the council. So if you're interested, I will send an email through Shannon and the team. And like I said, we hope you join us. Can I answer any questions?
Yeah, the air stage with the surfing theme, where and when?
The air stage with what thing? Which thing? Oh, the surfing, July 4th.
Yeah.
On the Arts District campus, the Ridge Street Art Square, which is also called Barney Ford parking lot. That will be the Surf in USA.
Anyone else?
Are you needing all of the clamshells, or do you have like as many as you can handle right now?
We are looking for really colorful plastics right now. We could take some more clamshells as well. And we have certain collection dates that are in our brochure and on our website. So yes, but if you have any of those beer holder plastic tops, those are amazing for our work, like Cool Whip containers, anything that's kind of colorful and bright, we love, but we'll take it until we can't anymore.
Great,
Mhm.
thank you.
Great, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And one last thing, Kelly, we have kicked off our new website project. So it is a lot to kind of juggle during the summer, but we anticipate that new website launching in February 2023.
I am so looking forward to using that.
Me too.
And thank you so much for getting the air stage back out. I know that was a big commitment of time and resources, but the locals really love that. So
Good. That's our job. And we're really honored to be able to create those connections with it. That's the point. So thank you.
Hire with Phipps, he's a great.
I know he's
Yeah,
awesome.
it'll be good.
Yeah.
He learns French great.
Oh, yeah.
Been here forever.
Thank you. Okay, we have citizens' comments, non-agenda items only. 3-minute time limit, please. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
And please state your name for the record.
Stevenson. I live in Breckenridge. I wanted to come and I did attend the Planning Commission meeting last week where they discussed Breckenridge Grand Vacations Plan to build new condominiums and which I believe will be interval ownership where people buy and use their unit for a week or they rent it out when they're not going to use it. So I'm wondering why the town council and this town would consider building new properties when you have an ordinance to limit short-term rentals. It doesn't seem like you would build more if you have decided that you need a cap. It seems like you would let the existing properties rent short-term before you would build more. So, perhaps town council can consider a moratorium for building for a while and, let long-term housing catch up since you're so far behind with affordable long-term housing. quit building more short term. Yeah, you have all said you have enough.
We,
So-
we do have enough. He's in process now. He's been in process for a long time, has a right to utilize that density that was put on that property in the 60s. And there's no way, even if we would do a moratorium, it would not affect that property.
So perhaps you can make it so they can't short-term rent it. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
Well, Mayor and
yeah.
Council, just so you know, we have an active application before Planning Commission. So I mean, maybe planning and staff wants to talk about whether there's an avenue to comment at Planning Commission rather than here. I don't know.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Sir. Oh, sorry. You're next.
All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bobby Yeager. I'm here today to discuss and provide a potential stepping stone to address the public health crisis, which is the fentanyl epidemic. It's steadily increased at a rate of over 1,000% each year since 2018. This year alone, Summit County has lost 20 people due to fentanyl.
Jesus Christ.
It is a fast-paced, high-stress environment that cultivates a vulnerable population. Between environmental depression, high prices, limited housing, and simple day-to-day stressors that we experience being in a tourist town, all of these factors contribute to our high depression and high suicide rate within Summit County. Unfortunately, the world we live in, alcohol and drugs are used as an outlet to try to cope with some of these mechanisms. And it's going to be for a long time. We're never going to get everybody clean, but what we can do is provide a safety net to help provide a clean opportunity for them to use these resources, I guess. Resource, probably not the best word for resources. But what I am proposing is establishing a program that provides safety and education to the public, tourists, and locals, so that we can reduce the rate of harm that this has done to the community. Over the last 4 years, I can pretty much throw a stone at anybody in this room and you've all been affected by it in one way or another. I have a timeline and expectations and everything developed. I mean, obviously this is very much a rough draft because I've started doing this over the recent months. I personally have had to bury 3 of my friends this year. And I know we're not even through the year yet. It's kind of disheartening. I know Dick and the BRA have been addressing this issue. Eric, you as well, sending out emails and bringing that attention to the restaurant because that industry is definitely plagued with substance abuse problems. What I would like to do, just to give you the quick rundown, is provide access to test strips and Narcan throughout the restaurants and bars within town. Make these resources readily accessible and easily accessible. As of right now in Summit County, there's really only one establishment that continuously carries the test strips. And unfortunately, most of the time when I call them, they're sold out. What I would also like to do with that is bring awareness to local establishments beyond just the restaurants and everything and outside of the schools. Most of the schools were not being affected by the fentanyl epidemic. What is being affected is the age group of 18 to 45. Those are people that are working in the industry, being readily here in those high stress environments. Also creating a training program that would provide an opportunity for bartenders, management, and the other service industry people to understand what the symptoms are in case of an OD situation, how to handle that situation, bringing awareness of the Good Samaritan Act that was instilled in 2020, if I remember correctly, through Colorado legislator, and just creating a safe and what's the word I'm looking for? An environment where people aren't looking down on each other. Like, I know this is a very testy subject right now, especially with the things that are going on. Why should I protect a drug user's life? We're all people here and we all have our outlets, and we've all been down some of those paths before. I feel very, very passionately about this. I believe there is an opportunity to be the forefront of a movement to help take control of this situation, not just within our community, but set a standard within the communities around us. So what I'm really up here asking for today is, one, if anyone knows of any programs or nonprofit organizations or anything like that that are already kind of working towards a goal to take control of this, to give me that information so that we can kind of network all of them together so that we're working for a common purpose and be able to take control of this quickly and decisively. You know, I've been watching this go through for years now, and I'm tired of talking about it. We need to act on it now, because every day that we don't, I feel, is another day where we're going to lose somebody else. And Dick and Eric, you guys know more than anybody else probably that there's no way that we're going to get it out of the industry. This is something that we're going to be dealing with for a long time, but we can set a standard and a precedence to provide a safer and more stable outcome for the community, because these are the people that are going to shape what comes next.
Bobby, thank you. Is Building Hope?
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
think there's probably a couple options. So on the sign-in sheet on the table, if you want to make sure your contact information is on there, I'll connect with you tomorrow.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you very much. I have reached out to like Sandra Vane, Carol Locks, and JB Katz, the DA Janine, and talked to them briefly about this as well. And they've been helping me kind of network and navigate how to get through these waters, because this boardroom, this is very new to me. But I did not realize how many of you guys I knew when I walked in this room. So, but I'm really hoping that we can get something going here within the next couple of weeks and start developing an action plan on how we can effectively create positive change.
Awesome. Bobby, thank you. Make sure you leave your contact info.
I definitely will. Thank you guys very much for your time.
Thank you. Julie?
Greetings, Mayor and Council. I'm Julie Suter, for those of you who don't know me. I am here on behalf of Congressman Neguse. He just opened up a new satellite district office in Frisco just last month, and I am its lone staffer. So I started in May, and I've been making the rounds to the various elected officials throughout the mountain counties in the 2nd Congressional District. And so my territory to be kind of your first contact and to provide an added layer of communication between the local communities and the Congressman's office. So I cover Gilpin, Clear Creek, Grand, Summit, and part of Eagle. And so I'm really excited to kind of jump back into the community. For those of you who don't know, I worked for Summit County for 7 years as the Director of Communications, and I took the last year and a half or so to work for an organization called the Electrification Coalition, which worked on EV adoption policy. So I'm excited to see some of your agenda items tonight. And so I wanted to let you know that the Congressman's intent with the opening of the new office is to really foster better communication and to be in better touch with the mountain communities and not feel like the only place you have to go is Boulder and Fort Collins. And so he's really excited to open the office. I'm really excited to staff it, and I'm excited to continue to work with you. So, so please reach out. And if any of you would like to have coffee with me and sit down and talk about anything
anything that has to do with the interface between federal agencies or legislation, funding opportunities, et cetera, and the local level, then I'm more than happy to meet with you.
Julie, do you have a card?
Yes, I have a stack of cards I'll
Awesome.
pass around.
Well, Joe was great during the pandemic and I mean, we've had a couple Zooms since then even, and he's just been great for Breckenridge. So we're glad you're here.
Great,
And we're
great.
glad you're here in that position because he's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
a huge fan.
Yeah,
He helped us out quite a bit, getting some federal funding and stuff during the pandemic. So,
excellent. Well, yeah, I'm excited that he's my new boss.
yeah, awesome.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
All right. Anyone else, Hank?
Hey guys, Hank Scott. I'm not in the real estate or property management industry. I just got an idea. I thought I'd bounce it by you for affordable housing in a way that actually like a stepping stone. Younger people can get into housing before they get into the Wellington sort of price range. And the plan's pretty straightforward. The town would donate land and then they would put a bunch of tiny homes on it. The important part of this particular plan is that, just say it's, I'll give you some numbers, but a half acre broken into 600 square foot lots would house 30 tiny homes, still leave 4,000 square foot for public spacing and walkways and everything else. These tiny homes can be off grid. There's a whole bunch of them out there. I'd recommend you'd probably run water and sewage, but electricity wise, they can be completely off grid. So tiny homes, the land would be part of the package. So the town would donate the land, break a half acre up into 600 square foot lots, put a 200 to 300 square foot, even 400 square foot tiny home on it, 200 square foot for patio, whatever. And if I look at the top end, running the numbers, $240,000 tiny home, and they range from 40 grand to 240 grand. A bunch of them are off grid. 240 grand, you sell them to young people for 100 grand. And I'm just making up numbers here. But with an FHA loan, they need 3% down. So they need 3 grand to buy a house. They get to own the house and the land, and you incentivize them to stay for 5 years. And after 5 years, you try and bump them up into the next, the next level, the Wellington size homes. A half acre would house 60 to 90 people. If you do something that's cheaper, such as a $50,000 tiny home, and there are plenty of them out there, then the cost of running the sewage after donating the land would basically make it cost neutral. And that's a half acre, housing 90 people. So if you did a $240,000 one and you sold each land plus pod or tiny home, whatever you want to call it, you subsidize 140 grand. With the sewage costs and other landscaping costs, you're looking at about a $5 million down. Obviously, you're getting back some money for selling them, but that's a one-time subsidy. So for $5 million, you're housing 60 to 90 people. And for them, it's a stepping stone. So at a 10-year loan on a $97,000 mortgage, if you actually run it as a 10-year loan, it's $1,200. So if they want to get a full, they want to pay off that loan in 5 years, 2 grand, which is what they're paying in rent, but they only need 3 grand to get in it through an FHA program. And you use the affordable housing programs, you vet the people, but I'm thinking the young people who can't afford to pay rent and get a deposit, who are leaving town, and they're leaving because they know there's no chance they'll ever make it into a $500,000 Wellington house. So I don't know too much about what it costs to run the sewage and everything else. I have some ideas about how to incentivize people to not want to live there forever, because you do want to make it a stepping stone. Don't give them parking. That'd be one. Another one would be you actually collect their mortgage, and at the 5-year mark, if they move on, they get 98% of every dollar in rent is now their nest egg, their 100 grand nest egg. And once again, I'm just playing with the numbers, but if you go down as low as a $50,000 tiny home, it's cost neutral. If you donate the land, that is. And that's a half acre. And I know you guys have got land that you're looking at. So 90 people on a half acre. Like I said, there's plenty of different ways to incentivize them to move on. But I would see this as a way of someone who's thinking of moving back home to the Midwest or wherever. It would give them hope that they don't have to come into, they don't have to save 100 grand. They're just paying their rent for 5 years and they end up with 100 grand in their pocket. And it goes up 3% or whatever the rules are. Anyway, that's it. It's my idea.
Always good ideas, Hank.
Over to you guys, and I'm going to have a beer. Thanks, guys. I'm happy to answer any questions with the housing people because I've bounced it by a bunch of other people just to get ideas, and most people seem to like the idea. So
I texted you a number to call.
yeah.
Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, she was away for a week or so.
Her to me, but I'll remind her.
Yeah.
And I'll text you. Yeah, cool.
Thanks,
All right.
Hank.
See you,
No worries.
man.
Thanks, guys.
All right, anyone else? Yes, sir.
I think that was great, Hank. Thank you. Brian Stokes, I'm just here to follow up. I was here last meeting about the sandwich boards. I'm not sure what would help. Petition, protest, like any thoughts, suggestions, concerns? I'd love to have a discussion on this.
Have you talked with anybody from community development? Have they given you sort of the timeline on the last time we went?
Yeah,
through
so
this whole
you know,
thing?
I've spoken to various people, and it was a COVID pandemic relief. I just don't know that there's any negative effects, data points, concerns that justify it, make it make sense. These are local businesses. These are places we want our tourists to come to. These are places we make revenue on. Let's have a concrete discussion. Let's think about this. This is common sense. This isn't like creating a puzzle. This is basic. What are the issues with the signs? How do we solve them? How do we enable business owners to survive?
So like I said, so 5 years ago, we went through a huge community discussion about this, which is how we got to where we are. And I don't know if you've read through that, but that's all the answers to why we're where we are.
I've read most of them. and I just don't-
Outside of the pandemic.
I've read most of them. That was also decisions made pre-pandemic. Are those concerns still in effect? Like, did people experience the realities of those concerns? I don't think so, Eric.
You know what? Maybe you and I could talk offline.
I would love to, really. This is a solution-oriented approach here. I think we can work.
I'll stop by your shop and maybe we can sit down and have coffee.
Thank you.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. All right, anyone else this evening? Okay, with that, the citizens' comments are closed. We move on to continued business. We have second reading, Council Bill number 19, Series 2022. This is an ordinance authorizing the granting of easements to Public Service Company of Colorado for the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. James.
Oh, James is gonna do it.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
James got it.
As the mayor has just stated, this is this second reading of an ordinance that would authorize the Public Service Company of Colorado for the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. There were no changes from the first reading of this ordinance.
All right. Any questions for staff? No, anyone in the public wish to comment on this second reading? Is there a motion, Jeffrey?
Yes, I move on second reading. We plug into Council Bill number 19, Series 2022, the title which is read into the record.
Second.
That was very clever. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carlton,
Yes.
Mr. Beckerman,
Yes.
Ms. Owens. Yes. Yes. Mr. Bergeron,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have the second reading of Council Bill number 20, Series 2022. It's an ordinance adopting timeline for notice and relocation of facilities and in connection therewith adopting fines and penalties for failure to comply. James?
Yes, again, this was discussed today earlier at the work session, and there were no changes from the first reading of this ordinance. And this would allow failure for comply for and penalties for the connection of relocation of facilities.
Thanks, James. Any questions for James?
You having a stroke?
I don't know if you can answer them, but are there any questions? Anyone in the public wish to comment on this second reading? No, is there a motion?
On second reading, move we pass Council Bill number 20, Series 2022, the title which has been read into the record. Second.
Rush for a
I
second.
think Jay beat out.
You give it Jay? All
Yeah,
right.
JB,
There's a
yeah.
motion and a second. Any further
Jake's
discussion?
lost a couple of steps over the years. He's slow in his motions.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Sade,
Yes.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes.
Mr. Beckerman,
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. We have no first readings this evening. We do have one resolution, that is resolution number 14, series 2022. This is a resolution approving acceptance of a water treatment plant.
Town Council, this was presented earlier at the work session. Again, resolution approving acceptance of the water treatment plant. I'm flowing into my comfort zone.
Whoa, any questions?
Oh,
Nice
that one.
cover for Flowy Phelps. No, is there a motion? I'm sorry, anyone in the public wish to comment on this resolution? Nope, is there a motion?
Yes, I move we pass the resolution number 14, series 2022, a resolution approving the acceptance of a water treatment plant.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council?
That was a sympathy second. No one-
Roll call.
Mr. Beckerman. Ms. Sade.
Yes.
Ms. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes.
Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes, thank you, James. All right, with that, we move to planning matters. We have planning commission decisions from, I don't know when. Planning commission decisions from 6/21/2022. There any call-ups this evening? No, planning commission decisions stand as presented. We have the Breckenridge Grand Vacations de novo hearing written decision that was provided to us by town attorney. What do we?
Yep, so you should all have a copy of that in your inbox. It really is kind of a procedural issue mainly, so if you have no objections to the way it's written, then we will consider it final. I think you probably need to vote on it, make sure everyone's read it, and then we'll distribute it to BGB.
Okay, so we need a vote on the proceedings of the town council of the town of Breckenridge and application number PL 20220118. The applicant is Breckenridge Grand Vacations. Any questions for staff? First off,
Just to approve the written decision.
is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the written decision of the Breckenridge Grand Vacation de novo hearing written decision.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carlton.
Yes.
Ms. Owens.
Yes.
Mr. Beckerman.
Yes.
Mr. Bergeron.
Yes.
Ms. Sade.
Yes.
Mayor Mamula.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Kirsten. Report of the town manager and staff.
Let's see. So we need to schedule a de novo hearing for an appeal to a town decision on a bedroom count for a short-term rental license. With the timing of what's in the code, it requires us to have the hearing within 30 days of the appeal, and we have to notice it within 20 days of the hearing. And so we have a pretty tight time frame. What we're looking at is Tuesday, July 19th at 10 a.m.
So we would do this as a separate matter.
It would be a separate meeting.
I won't be here.
July, what was that?
19th.
I will not be here.
I wouldn't be available to call in either.
Okay. I mean, and I will just tell you that we are still working out some of the details with the person who's making the appeal. And so this is the date we're on right now, but this could change.
Who can be here on the 19th?
I can.
I cannot actually that morning.
So three of us can make the decision. That'll be fine.
I think we need a quorum.
Yeah, probably. I wonder if Todd will be available. Or will he be somewhere else in Europe? Todd? Oh, he's not around. We'll have to find out.
Him.
Okay.
Okay.
Traveling councilman.
Time did you say, Janet?
10 a.m.
Yeah. that doesn't work.
You send like an invitation.
I will,
Or
once
calendar
we,
thing. Yeah.
once we finalize, I will.
Is it possible to do it on a council day, like the 12th, or is that just too rushy for you?
It wouldn't give us time to do the 20-day notice.
Okay, and the 26th is too long.
Unless the
Applicant
person
agrees.
making the appeal would like to
Okay.
push it out. So we have a few other details to work out. So I'll let you know as we work through those. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Shannon. We have report of the mayor and council members. I didn't have any we had CML. CML was here. For those of you who went, it was awesome. For those of you who didn't, it was still awesome. I gave the welcome address to a big room of people, and that was cool. And then there was obviously all kinds of stuff that went on. I went to a dinner on Monday that was pretty fun. And then I went to the mayor's mingle, which was fun, but also a bit horrifying. Because unlike the cast group, CML is everybody. It's Lyman and Fountain and Lamar. And there are some mayors that have such an unbelievably hard time with their councils. I am so grateful for you people. I can't even tell you. One mayor told me, or we were speaking to everybody who was talking to the group. She has 4 members of their council that will only abstain. They will not vote yes or no because they do not want to go on the record. It's some of the most unbelievable discussions happened in that room. I would walk out. I mean, some people were like, why don't you just quit? So, it was pretty loose and fun, but some mayors really have some serious hard times. There's a town manager, and I can't even remember where they were from, but the town manager sent a memo only to the employees that they are not to socially talk to the town council. And the council didn't know this was going on. And the mayor found out because she was trying to talk to somebody at a bar, and they're like, we're not allowed to talk to you, according to the manager. So that's a big deal going on in that town. There was all kinds of stories like that. Again, thank you all for being who you are. You make my life so much easier. So, but CML was great. They were all very appreciative and psyched about Breck, and it was a really beautiful time to be here too. So it was super awesome. And then we had cast right after that. And we used to have the cast meeting at CML where we tried to get some work done, but they've just turned it into social hour, which makes it a lot easier. So that's it. Open space, Jeffrey.
We had a meeting last night. Friends of Breckenridge Trail events this summer include construction on projects like Little Mountain, Betty's to Chantilly, as well as stewardship projects, weed pulls and monitoring. And if you want to just kind of free form and do weed pulls on your own or pick up poop, and rather than lifting heavy construction materials, that's cool too. That's what I'll be doing.
Will you weed pull in my yard?
Yeah, I'll send Elliot there. 4 o'clock trail will reopen soon, hopefully this week, after restoration and the minor reroute. Cucumber Gulch opens July 6th. Guided hikes are available through our naturalists. Registration required. And then for the Forest Health Project above Airport Road, will begin right after July 4th and take approximately 2 weeks to complete. 24 acres of forest are being treated, all handwork. And this is above Airport Road, so be advised. Illinois Creek Trail is closed. We've heard a lot about that. We had a kind of a handshake deal, trail easement. And now that they want to develop it, they closed it. My thought is maybe for leverage to get their development approved, but that's just me. We have a new Facebook page, for open space and trails, and friends, but it's a weird name. It's like website for Breckenridge Trails.
Facebook and Meta.
Yeah.
They're having to have an open space page, and then the Friends of Breck Trails and Gulch will be nested underneath that. That's kind of the structure.
Okay.
The website openspace@townofbreckenridge.com is where people should send emails when they see a tree.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Now we talked about the SPRTV request. That's Summit Public Radio is in TV, and they're going to their old cable is archaic and is failing in many places and has. They have gone from the Lorium up to the kind of the above the mill, and they're going to go through a partial 260 feet of our land, open space, county and town, to access, and then the rest Forest Service to access their satellite, their facility up top of Baldy. The SE group came in and just presented a really amazing and concise report of how it's going to be done. And I'm very comfortable with how it's designed that, yeah, it's going to be nasty for a few days. Maybe, but other than that, I think they're going to re-veg it to a point where I think we'll be happy with it. And it will guarantee a more reliable source of electricity to that, to Summit County Public Radio, which provides a bunch of stuff, but certainly for me, KUNC, which, you know, this the NPR station. So that's kind of cool.
Are they gonna repair what they
Yeah.
cut through on the Lorium?
Yep.
And when are they gonna do that?
They're going to do that, right, starting in September.
Yeah, so they're waiting, the county has to do some of that.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
But the process that they're doing above that is different than what they've done on Lorium. So this would be a less intrusive mechanism. And yes, and we did press them about Lorium, and they want to see what happens with what they had done so far. And then they are going to return it to.
You know, if a developer came in and asked us to do something else without fixing something first, we would say no. That's all I'm saying. I think it's weird that we're gonna allow them to go through more sensitive terrain and they left the other stuff in terrible shape. So. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the length of the whole cable they plan to spool from now to the summit, like for this point to the summit is like 4,000 feet. Of that, it crosses our land 200. Kind of little folks in the boat. It's hard for us to stake the whole thing.
But we talked to them about that last night. They agreed that they were gonna go back and so. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so and then if approved, the thing will go off sometime in September. Now, as far as what's that?
It's gonna come to council in a 2-year process. Get some public radio, give them permission.
But it would start in September.
Correct. The work will occur in September. We need to get it from you all.
You-
So I should have waited to make my comments. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you both have kind of
You're gonna
screwing
get
up.
another choice.
Yeah, everyone's screwing up my rhythm.
Sorry, man.
Okay, so now the deal is another thing. So we have this master plan thing. And BOSAC has offered suggestions and corrections and, you know, over the course of about a month, I guess. And DGH's heard some of them, and they've amended some of their master plan, particularly the format makes it easier on an iPad or a small laptop. We are going to have a special meeting July 11th, just BOSAC. And we're going to come up with, every commissioner is going to come up with 3 to 6 suggestions, amendments that we would like done on this master plan. And if this is a consensus, say if I want this and everyone agrees, and then we'll submit that to DTJ. If I want this and no one agrees, then we won't. But so we'll kind of all get together and see what our biggest needs, our biggest concerns are. And then we'll try to get a straw poll on that. And if we're in agreement or consensus, we'll send it to DTJ, and then they'll hopefully make amendments to the plan. And now currently the suggestion is that once that's done, then we will get a revised edition of the master plan. At the same time, council will get a revised edition of the master plan. We'll both look at it on our own, and then we'll come together and then work on it together. But to be clear, when we work on it together, this won't be, you know, this will be a master plan that's proposed, and it's not for sure that BOSAC will say, this is the one we want. but we'll have council feedback, OSAC feedback, and we'll do it on a joint meeting. And the purpose of that is to get it done sooner than later. So I don't know how if you guys feel about that, if you want OSAC to look at it first and say, yeah, let's tweak this a few times. This is exactly how we want it. This is what we support. Here it is, council. What do you think? Or do you want us to come together, looking at the same document and make final tweaks there?
I'm afraid that having that many of us in a room making tweaks to a document will be unwieldy. As opposed to OSAC as our advisory group, presenting us with a document that they feel is finished.
Okay.
I don't know how the rest of you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. I would like to have BOSAC's approval before it's kicked back up to us.
And I still maintain that this is not like an as soon as possible thing. It's as good as possible thing.
There's no rush.
Okay. Okay.
There is the budget piece of it, though. I think a couple of you brought up at the last meeting. And so there is the sort of the longer it goes on, the more work that is done by the consultant, the more meetings, that kind of thing. Obviously the cost.
No, they're not going to be at the meeting on the 11th.
Right.
So.
So does the consultant realize that they've done a bunch of stuff that we've sort of told them not to in multiple forms? And I hope they're not charging us to redo stuff that obviously doesn't make any sense. I feel like we've made our position as a council at least pretty clear.
Well, I mean, I feel a little offended by them saying that the more back and forth, the more it's going to cost you, because they were so far. I mean, a 200-page document, like how were we ever going to use that? That shouldn't have been presented to. I feel like, there needs, I mean, I'm not going to say that there weren't things that we asked for or that maybe BOSAC asked for that might have been out of the scope, but I really think the scope needs to be compared to the document that they've given us. And if we're asking for stuff that's out of scope, that's one thing. But if it's just because they totally miss, or, maybe not totally, but if they miss the mark, then that should be considered on their end.
Scott, you were going to add?
I'll talk with Scott and we'll go over the budget and take a look at it.
So do you guys think, do you think you guys as a OSAC can get what you want?
I don't know. I mean, there are some things that I have some, kind of serious issues with, but I'm a freak. I'm just one person on this thing. I think there is a fair amount of the 7 of us. I think there's a fair amount of not dissension, but strong suggestions that we'd like to see occur in this master plan that heretofore have not been shown.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I think it is 7 of us making, and someone said, well, when you come together on the 11th, each come up with 3 suggestions or 3 corrections. I think I'll have more than 3, and I think everyone will,
I mean, it's got to be right before it comes to the council.
We did it like 2010, so it's been 14 years. We get it for 12 years. So we want to make sure this is good. Yeah. So.
Keep it up, man.
Yeah, you guys are really lucky to have me.
Listen, everybody says that.
Yeah.
You all good?
Yeah, that's it.
Tourism?
Nope.
History?
Have not had a meeting, but they are hosting a 4th of July parade viewing for frontline and essential workers because it was so
nice.
successful. They're going to continue to make it a tradition at the Barney Ford.
Are we essential? We considered essential?
You used to be as pro tem, but not anymore. Now Kelly is.
Kelly was sure they were like her whole clan and
You can
compound.
go in my space.
Anybody doing creative while rankings in Denmark on a boondoggle? Nope. I guess we got Tamara did her thing. Events.
We didn't have a meeting, did we? Nope.
Childcare.
We have our next meeting a week from tomorrow.
Sweet. Workforce housing.
Oh God, now I gotta remember.
I'm really surprised.
No, we didn't have a meeting today, so we talked about it last week. and Laurie reported on it too, I think.
Yeah. Social equity.
We had a meeting last week, really productive meeting. We're getting closer to nailing down on our equity lens and our equity blueprint. And the next month, we'll have a special extra meeting with our consultant to kind of try and wrap up that process. Tamra from BCA came and had a good discussion about possible opportunities for partnership. And Kirsten gave us a good governance training.
Thanks. Right. Any other matters? Jeffrey, anybody want to yell at?
Please don't. I have two.
Oh, go to it.
One is Red, White, and Blue was very grateful for the opportunity to come and meet with us last week. And they said that the planning department has been, I think it's planning, has been amazing with helping them get some of the permits that have been stuck move forward and push through. And they're very grateful. Thank you so much. But also, I know that we had discussed there would be some sort of a committee that would be convened that could help that permitting process maybe get streamlined. And I just wanted to make sure that that's still on the radar, and they hadn't had anyone selected to be a part of that committee. So I told them I'd follow up.
Okay.
You volunteering?
No? Someone who knows something. has
Sounded
something.
like you were volunteering, didn't it, Dick?
It's kind of what I heard.
Second question I have for the council is I would really like, in our efforts to expand composting in this community, for us to maybe see if HC3 would partner with us to have a few more compost bins around town. It's really, if you guys are doing it, you know that it's just a pretty, I think they're a 6-yard dumpster. It's pretty small, and
Yeah.
I just, it's out of the way anyway, pretty much for most
Especially
people,
now,
but
yeah.
now it's even more difficult. And then for the people at south end of town, it's very far away. And with the little buckets and everyone's small houses, you have to take them, 2 times a week at least. So if you guys are interested, I talked to Shannon and she said that if we have support among the council, that they would be interested in looking at possibly some land that we could partner with them, or appropriate space.
I got a
if
couple
we're all
ideas.
supportive.
Where we could put it. I think that's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we could also, hopefully HC3 will help push that messaging.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be a good place for their messaging that also will help get out the information that, and by the way, do this now so that you're used to it by the time we get into pay as you throw.
Cool.
Great.
I'm up for it, but I hope it's not too problematic for the staff with bears and everything else. I can tell you firsthand, bears love compost.
Yeah. Well, that one over, they have them all, they have them around.
At the
so
recycling center, they have it in
It's
that
just
thing.
locked, yeah.
Yeah, it's locks and yeah.
There's trash everywhere.
Stinks though.
Only when you open it, you can't smell it when you walk up.
Yeah, but when you put your hands in, like.
Oh,
What is it?
Oh.
See what's in there?
Yeah, see what's in bones? Anything good to eat?
You're on a roll tonight, buddy.
Yeah.
Any other matters? I got one. Boomerang will be coming to town on the 26th and for our meeting and introducing themselves and doing some stuff. And I got them hooked up with Hunter in Frisco also. So here we go. Anyone else?
What's kind of interesting is Doc PJ's, the High Country Healthcare has left, whatchamacallit, City Market. Alpine Sports is gone, the bank is gone. There's a lot of vacant space. I just wonder if it's worth reaching out to Dickey and Kroger and say, what are you gonna do with this? And it'd be nice to expand City Market. A bunch of, there's all sorts of space.
On that.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right.
All right. Anyone else?
That's all I got. Yeah.
That mean that we already have one?
Ryan.